3 minutes past 10. Oh, 4 minutes past 10. Very cool, very cool. Welcome, one and all, to a brisk Korean morning. I hope that you're doing well today. Whew. It's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one. I can feel it in my bones. We have some fun stuff lined up for you. It is Reading Corner once again today. Make sure that you are sat back, relaxed, and primed for enjoyment. Make sure you have a drink in your hand. Give me your mental health out of 10. Give me your physical health out of 10. I'd love to know how you are. No matter which means you are watching the stream by what means you are watching the stream, it is lovely to be able to spend time together, whether you're in the future watching from the VOD, whether you are live, whether you're lurking, whether you're not. I don't care. I'm happy to have you here. It's really nice to see you. Thought I would time that. Very good. It's very nice to see everyone here. Taters and Alpherg. Can't stay the whole stream because D&D. Oh, it's D&D night tonight. Yay! We love D&D night. What's on the plans for today? I had a good thing out of 10, but now I can't remember it. Well, that should communicate enough to me. All right. I hope that your week has been all right. I hope that you're ready to listen to some good reading. I hope that you're ready to appreciate some art with me. And by art, I mean reading art, some writing art that our community members have done. We have a little bit of stuff to do as submitted by these community members. We shall see. Yeah, okay, yeah, the seed became a sprout out of 10. We planted basil seeds, and they've just sprouted. I haven't actually seen it for myself yet, but it's very cool. I'm very proud of our little seed for working really hard. Good job, Basil. Of course, its name has to be Basil. Yeah, Basil. That's how you say the name of the herb with an H. The herb. That's how you say the name of. Hold on, you're in Discord. That's how you say the name of the herb. The herb. It's
no.
Basil.
I'm with one herb, but it's
Basil,
my friend.
It
is basil.
All right, hold on.
You're looking this up, aren't you?
Yep. How to pronounce the word basil correctly, brackets, in YouTube. Here we go. Hold on. Streaming. We will resolve this immediately. Please. Please, I'm gonna be so mad. Please just respond. There we go.
Well, Edge says basil.
It says Bazee, actually.
We are looking at how to pronounce this word as
well
as how to say more interesting and often
thank you, Julian Mikel.
confusing words in English, and some of the most mispronounced ones too, so make sure to stay tuned for those. How do you say it? Well, there are two different pronunciations for it. In British
right and wrong.
English, this is said as basil.
Correct.
Basil.
Good.
So an emphasis on that first syllable and a ba sound.
Good.
In American English,
And
however,
wrong pronunciation?
it is usually said as basil.
Yeah, okay.
In
All right, so the incorrect way is basil. You've heard it here first. There you go.
Basil.
Yep, that's it.
That's the correct pronunciation. Yes.
Yeah, that's the wrong one. Right. He didn't even say the word R properly. Brother, quiet. All right, we're focusing on Basil here. All right.
Basil.
Basil doesn't have an H though. No, the word herb. Huh? Are you confusing? No.
Because you're pronouncing ba instead of bay,
Bay. You're my bay.
which admittedly the word ba is spelled ba.
Ba, as in ba black sheep, and that's B-A-A, ba. B-A-H, if you will.
Well, BAA is the sound a sheep makes. Ba, because ba, BA is just a word.
Meaning what?
It depends on the
What is ba?
language you're using it in, I guess.
Oh, no. I thought we were talking about English here. You can't bring other languages into this. This is about English.
Okay, the sound ba is generally written down as BA. But specifically when a sheep makes it, it's BAA.
Right. The rules of English dictate that the I bumps the A and makes the A say its name.
I don't think that's the rule.
And then? And then what? Wait, why? I mean, yes, that's often true until it's not true. In all seriousness, I'm memeing, right? Let's say for the record. No, the I's not bumping the A in that word, Taters. What do you mean? It's far. There's an S between there. It's meant to be there for like rain, because the I bumps the A. That's what that rule is.
The A makes an ah sound.
Yeah, the R makes an R sound. Thank you. Basil, my favorite herb. Basil. In all seriousness, if you're hearing
Don't you say pasta?
I don't say pasta. I say it correctly. Tater says pasta.
Okay.
Pasta. Tater says pasta. I say pasta.
Tater says pasta. I can't ever remember that for some reason.
Right. So here's the How does the A say its name in taters?
Because that's an E.
That's because there's an E there. The magic E makes the sound long. Magic E is like one of the first things I teach in foreign language English. It lengthens the vowel. It comes from the word tate, as in potato. Potato coming from, something else. Because there's an O at the end.
Oh no.
We've made a new rule. It's fine.
You're muted, by the way, Taters.
If anyone here is wondering,
My phone, put my headset on, but I'm not going to. All of the vowels have the power to bump other vowels. I teach grade 1
but
English.
That wasn't taught to
only
me.
if they're right next to them, though. That doesn't.
No, because the E can bump the A in the word tater.
Because it's an
as
E.
an
It's
example.
got.
No, but they're all special.
E has like its
Okay,
own special
how do you
properties.
say
It
the
doesn't
word
have
raisin?
to be.
How do you say the word raisin?
Raisin is R-A-I.
But they're
Are you
Right.
coming at me telling me you say rosin?
It's spelled R-A-I.
Rosin is
Taters.
actually spelled R-O-S-I-N.
Yeah, R-A.
I do
Raisin
drugs,
is,
I know that.
Raisin is spelled R-A-I-S-I-N, as in the I bumps the A. It's right next to the A.
What? It's literally not.
It is. How do you?
I'm sorry, did you just say raisin is not spelled R-A-I?
It's not R-A-S-I-N. It's R-A-I-S-I-N. That's how you spell raisin. Go check.
My phone literally just said raisin is spelled whatever. I'm gonna pick another one. Give me a second. I'm gonna Google all of the words where the I bumps up the letters.
All right.
I don't even have my headset. I'm so frustrated.
Go find exceptions, and then we'll tell you that they're exceptions.
They're not. They're literally not exceptions. I literally just had this conversation with a first grader today.
So this is how I feel when all of you come after me for things. I'm just letting you know that this is.
But you're wrong.
It's really nice to be to be vindicated in this way. Also, if anyone here thinks that I'm being genuine, I'm absolutely not.
Basil
People
has
can...
an A sound.
Bagel?
Basil.
Oh, basil. No, it has two.
Oh, hi, Fly.
It has two pronunciations. Hello, Fly. Yes, no, I'm absolutely not being genuine. We do this for the meme. Hello, Ash. Because
Hello,
pronunciation,
Ash.
you can never say
Hello.
that something is a correct or incorrect pronunciation because just because you don't pronounce it that way does not mean that it's an incorrect pronunciation. If there is
No, I'm
someone,
saying it's wrong specifically
Objectively,
because you
No.
pronounce it that
you-
wrong.
no,
are wrong.
I'm aware of that because that's kind of the way we do things here. But genuinely, when someone doesn't, like there is no such thing as a correct or incorrect pronunciation because as soon as one person in the world pronounces a word that way, that becomes a way to pronounce that word. Not correct or incorrect. It just
Of
depends
course.
on who is saying the word. Right?
100%.
So because I am
The
pronouncing
reason
words
I
in a
joined
certain
the
way,
voice chat-
that means because I'm pronouncing words in a certain way, that means I'm pronouncing them incorrectly because it's me. That's the
you.
way that it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't
The
speak
only
any
reason
English.
I
and
joined
any
the voice
of the,
chat.
Any of the words that I'm saying here are all incorrectly pronounced because I'm the one saying them. So I honestly don't know how any of you understand me when I do any of these readings or anything like that because that's weird.
Everything you say is wrong. That's what we're getting from
Sing,
this.
thangs, multi, play, differ, int,
Why would you say that about my mom?
Evera,
Anyway.
tomb, thy, lev.
The reason
See? It's wild.
I joined the voice chat is strictly because you said the I can't bump another letter, and that
No.
is wrong.
No, he did specify with Basil.
I said it can, just only when it's right next
mean
to
Basil?
the word. That's the intention of the rule.
No,
I can
no,
bump letters.
it can reach over other letters.
You still haven't given
All
me a
of the
word where it
vowels
does.
can.
You still haven't given me a
Because
word
I
where it
stopped
does.
Googling because I don't care.
Oh, really? So you cared enough to join voice chat, but not enough to back up your words? Cool.
Didn't even care enough to find my headset. I'm just yelling at my cell phone in my bedroom.
Valid.
Well, thanks for being here, Taters.
Yeah, I'm not
Enjoy
staying because I do have D&D, but I just wanted to yell at you.
Jesus.
That's valid.
It's
On
you know, the small
on an
things in life that bring you joy.
On an incorrect basis, too. Great. My ass out here pronouncing things multiple different ways every time they leave my mouth because I go back and forth between Scotland and the States constantly. I'm so glad you picked that message for that. Wait, where do you go, Alpherg? Do you go from factory to home? Is that where the different pronunciations occur?
No, it's just whatever sound my mouth feels like making at that moment.
Nice. Also, hello, Ash. Right.
In other news, MJ's wrong, and I have to go.
Go away. Go roll your dice and be happy with these simple things.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have fun.
No, I refuse.
Then don't. I can't control your life. Are they gone? Yeah. Jesus. All right. Yes, there is no correct or incorrect pronunciation of words because as soon as you pronounce them a certain way, that becomes a way to pronounce words. And in fact,
But
saying
it doesn't
something
become an accepted way to pronounce them.
No. But what is accepted? If like how many people need to say something a certain way before it becomes accepted? And
Well,
also,
how many people need to use a word before it becomes an official like dictionary word?
there is no like I don't know if there's like a criteria or something. It really just depends on.
I think there is a
It's really just how
usage rate
popular it
criteria.
is.
Yeah.
I don't know the
Maybe.
actual criteria, but I think it's just at a point where the dictionaries are like, a lot of people are using this word. I think we should probably put it in
Yeah.
the book finally.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people are using this word for a different meaning. We should probably change the meaning.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Literally, not
I'm
meaning
sure it
only
works.
literally anymore.
Yes, I'm sure it works in terms of language dilution as well, but specifically with pronunciation, I prefer to adopt a much more neutral approach in all seriousness because gatekeeping pronunciations can lead to some very discriminatory practices. So we're not
Hey,
going to do
but
that.
what
yeah,
about
sure.
names of things?
I mean, if
Names
it's-
are different.
if I feel like names would be an exception because if it's named a certain thing. However, there are also names depending on different languages. Like for example, we don't call Paris Paris because in English it's pronounced Paris usually, but
Well, that's only because we can't pronounce it Perry, even though we do it all the time.
But you can if you say Paris. You can still pronounce it the correct way. It just is not like. Yeah, whereas in Korean it's pronounced pari because it comes from the French. But yes, I would imagine there are colonial reasons for like the mispronunciations of things. I don't think that necessarily that means we have to go around pronouncing things like in their native language all the time though, particularly because often it makes you sound very pretentious. So there's that whole line of conversation as well. Yeah. I do wonder if names, because have you seen that College Humor video of the dude like over pronouncing foreign words and stuff?
Yes.
It's hilarious.
I love it.
I'll have a bruschetta. It's great. In 100% serious, grammar is made up and there's no right or wrong way to do made up things. All words are made up. All language is made up.
What?
As long as yeah, see also gender. Yeah, lots of things are just made
Except for English, of course, which just kind of poofed into the universe at some point.
Yeah.
The gods created it. I don't know, my imaginary girlfriend only likes to be done a certain way. Wait, she's been imaginary this whole time? Damn. I've really missed that memo. I heard her speak during Jackbox games.
You also heard her speak when we were driving home from Spider-Man.
I did. I remember.
It's really just me changing my voice. I'm sorry.
That tracks, actually. That makes so much sense. And accent as well, because her accent is vastly different from yours.
Is it, dude? I can't tell accents very well.
It is.
Like you have to have an accent for me to really pick up on it.
Everyone has an accent.
What do you mean? You have to have an accent.
You have to have a noticeable accent that is different from mine.
Be specific, racist.
That does honestly slightly irk me when people say it. Like, they don't have an accent. Like, I wish I had an accent. You have an accent. If you can speak, you have an accent. Did you know?
Alpherg,
Animals have accents.
Sign language has accents.
The imaginary girlfriend is different from our wife. Okay, got it. Cool. Well, when she was here on call, it's a vastly different accent from yours. It really is. I think she sounds more like. How do I put this? It's in a very like, she sounds like she would fit in really well on the set of Hairspray. Like I don't know how to,
hey,
I don't know how else to put that. It's like,
MJ says you would fit in very well on the set of Hairspray.
Yeah, like it's a very like specific accent that fit like not only that period, like that time period, but also that like region as well. I don't know. That's how I feel. Where's she from? Is she from the same place as you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was
America.
like, well, Baltimore's like north of
Baltimore.
you guys, isn't it?
What? Oh, homie, that's like 500 miles away.
Okay.
Baltimore.
Well, maybe I'm just seeing like
to the north. Or?
I'm not saying necessarily a Baltimore like a traditional Baltimore accent. I was just thinking like, oh, she's speaking. Wait, say more words. Say more words.
Wow, you can't just demand that, MJ.
I'm poking her with a stick. Dance.
No, I'm very glad that I muted because what she proceeded to say there.
Oh well, now she's got to say it again.
No, I'm trying.
No.
I don't mean this in a bad way at all. I mean this in a completely normal way. I quite enjoyed it actually. There was it's a very
That's what I know.
What?
I can't like. Wait, is it TOS?
No, it was more or less something kind of rude.
I don't mind. What do you mean? As if you people don't say rude things to me like every day?
Yes, but it wasn't something towards you. It was towards the main character of Hairspray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like Tracy Turnblad. She's great. Yeah, so I think yes. Oh, no. Okay. I figured the only reason I say Baltimore is that I don't actually know what a traditional Baltimore thing sounds like. It just gave me that vibe of Hairspray. I don't know why. Maybe it's like, yeah. She has a very distinct accent. It was very cool. Yeah, it was very cool to hear. That's all. I didn't mean that in a bad way.
You just really like your accent, apparently.
Yeah, I just thought it was
accent.
interesting. That's it. Yeah, see? It's the... I could hear it there, like even a little bit, if you listen real carefully.
I said that you like her accent, and her immediate response was, "I don't have an
See?
accent."
Yeah. There you go.
I'm
Go on,
gonna
Ash.
get
Go
violent.
off at her. Go.
Hold on. Here you go.
No.
No. Mentally ill juice. That's all I am.
Same though.
See, Ash can't get mad at you because you're new, so it's different. But I'll be mad on her
mad at anyone.
behalf. I'll be mad on her behalf. Everyone has an accent, all right? Everyone does.
Oh, I thought that was about the Hairspray thing. Yeah, you can compare me to anything else, but not the one about the white singing bitches.
What about Pitch Perfect?
What do you mean? The ones about
It's different.
Don't you mean the white people who solved racism? It's great, isn't it?
No, there's no one mentally ill enough in that cast to play me.
Would
Trust me,
you
I'd
say?
Or is it like Heather's JD?
Would you say that your accent is like?
Because you put it on my head.
Okay, well, would you say that your accent is like is traditionally Midwestern, like where you are right now? 'Cause I'm trying
I
to.
guess.
Because it
'Cause
is different. It is different from Alpherg.
Fly says not Heather's JD.
No, there's JD. Yes, continue.
Ziggy, it is a bag. Believe it or not, it'll make a sound if you hit it with your paw.
Hey, Baron's here. I'm bold. I don't need hairspray. No, the musical.
Alpherg is back.
Hello, Alpherg. Say thank you
Oh.
to our wife for me.
MJ says thank you.
Yeah. So, see, do you see what I mean? It's different, right? For anyone who is listening, like, it's a little bit. It's like, yeah, I can't quite fit it.
See,
But
I
feel
can
like
hear the South African in that cont.
I can't fit it, bro. You know what? Fun. Let's go full native, bro. And by native,
Well,
I
the
mean
first time you
colonial
said
native. Wait, not the first time I said what?
You can't fit it.
Oh. Nice.
No, he can't fill it.
Fill it, yeah. Can't do that either. I was watching a recording of Heather's a couple days ago. Good times. I think I think I would say that her accent is more like it's more Midwestern, maybe. Like more just like your accent, and then just dialed up a little bit. Yeah, in a good way. It was cool. Okay, cool. Enough accent talk. Let's do some reading, shall we? I was gonna do some TikTok, and then we started talking about language, and now we're here. So we're gonna do some reading. Yes.
I was gonna say we could discuss protests.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think
I've
there's
had so many thoughts today.
I would
Alright,
like to protest the protest discussion.
Well, if you
Okay. That's
why are you?
Because I can.
Are you?
Ash
All right,
really
let's,
is just a contrarian.
I would
I am
would
not.
love to hear. Huh? I would love to hear your thoughts about the protests. They've been going on in like rattling around in my mind as well. So let's quickly do a thing about that then. The only real one is this. This one's great.
Are these
really
the same protests that students are only having because they're not having enough sex?
Yes, that's the one. Students are just
What?
deprived. That was a real article that came out that said
An NYU professor claimed that students are going to anti-Israel protests because they're not having sex enough.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
first
how it
it's we're
works.
having too much sex. Now we're not having enough sex.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You need to be having more sex and not attending protests.
That's how protests work. It's just It's just pent up sexual frustration. So, yesterday, just as an idea, this is not an update about what happened yesterday, but obviously protests all over America are getting quite wild, and of course, the state will respond with its own sponsored form of violence in the form of police and state troopers. The one thing I've really been interested in looking at is the difference in responses, especially law enforcement responses from this and something like the famous Uvalde incident where there was a school shooter literally in the building for like an hour, and it took like 90 minutes or something for police to stop standing around and actually blocking parents from going in the absence of police being there, and then going in and causing more loss of life due to their inaction. But when it comes to unarmed protesters, of course, the armed wing of the state will do anything it can to squash them. And they've been arresting them and brutalizing them and kettling them, which is like rounding them up into a place where they can't escape and trapping them, basically. And yeah, it's been pretty horrific, but the focus must still be on the protests themselves and how amazing they've been. And I think that it shows you how it shows you how effective they really are when you can see how disproportionate the police response is. When the police when the police are responding like this with so much aggression, it's a really good sign that you are making an impact, that you are actually doing what you say you are going to. And there are more eyes on Palestine because of this, which is, you know, the main thing. Of course, this is such a crazy thing. It's something that obviously we would expect from these sorts of countries, like, you know, North Korea and China. These protests in their own universities have garnered an insane police response where they've been so brutal, and they've been just arresting people who speak out against the government. And oh wait, he said again, this happened not in China or North Korea, but in the United States of America. And if you were at any point thinking genuinely that I was talking about those other two countries, I think you should crack open a book. I'm not saying that they are wonderful countries, but also there is this tendency, I think I said this last time I brought this up, there is a tendency of Western people like us to throw stones when we ourselves live in decidedly glass houses. So please make sure that you make sure to fix what's going on in your backyard before you accuse other people of doing exactly the same thing. And in America specifically. All right, Fox has been saying college kids aren't having enough sex for a while. Yeah, it's wild. If they're having sex, they can't pay attention to or speak out against the shit the government's doing. Well, yeah, because they're all busy having sex. World is going crazy. I think I'm very much a supporter of protest action, especially student protest action. I think students generally throughout historical movements, looking at most major historical movements that have happened in the last century, student protests are usually a start of some really big changes. I'm South African, which means student protests are really important to me as well. They happened in my lifetime, and when we were in apartheid, they happened there too. It started with those student protests. I think if we are going to get to a place where we are finally comfortable with a system that works for all of us, protests are just the beginning. The world needs to turn upside down. So I hope that this momentum continues. But yeah, if you ever find yourself in an opportunity to join a protest and you feel like you want to, just make sure to be careful. there are lots of tips that you can find online for joining protest and making sure that you engage in them safely, like wearing masks, like carrying a notepad with you with your name and identification details on them, turning your cell phones off or taking out the battery because it keeps people from tracking you, not wearing a backpack because then police can like yank you out of protest lines if they want to arrest you. There are lots of ways that you can take care of yourself at protest if you want to go. But yeah, it's also the morning, so there's phlegm, so I'll be coughing a little bit more often than usual. Yeah, Miss Alpherg is gonna hate me tomorrow. One of the cat toys she got the other day has a pull tab for electronics. I'm assuming sounds and doesn't look the light would be appropriate, and she doesn't like the toys that make sounds. Wait, why? Why not? Does she have a specific experience with a toy that made sound? Is Woody just not
just doesn't like
doing
them.
it? Okay.
Is Woody just not doing it? God damn it. Why didn't Ash laugh at that?
There's a snake in my boot. Checkmate, Fox. I can do both. Have sex at the protest. Yeah. Also, yeah, bringing an umbrella is a good call as well, because you can deflect. Although it's usually better to do it not as like a phalanx at the front, because then they can just be yanked away, but rather at second line, where there's a line of people in front of you who can like push back. If you have an umbrella, it's really good for deflecting tear gas grenades and other things that they might throw at you. And by the way, these protesters are, again, unarmed. They're students, and they're unarmed. No one's brought weapons. They have, if you ever see people in luminescent jackets, those are administrators for the protest, like protest managers. They are there to make sure that people don't come in here to protest for the wrong reasons. And they make sure that people don't come in here to like co-opt some of the protests and yeah, like bring guns or whatever, like or whatever they want, depending on the aims of the protesters. Some of them might be okay with bringing them, but so far the protesters are unarmed and simply just staying where they are and refusing to move.
The counter protesters, however, have fireworks. At least I hope it was a counter protester that was throwing the...
No, they were counter protesters. Yeah, we've obviously seen counter protesters, people who protest the protests. Ash, you would fit right in there.
What?
And yeah.
Why?
I mean, with the points that she jokingly makes, absolutely.
Yeah, you were protesting the idea of protests. You were.
Doesn't sound like me.
Yeah. Okay, so any preppers here? Wait, what is a prepper? What is it? What is that? I'm sorry, I do not understand.
I would say doomsday prepper, but using doomsday as a loose term.
No, I'm not one of those people.
I don't have the money to be one of those people.
Yeah, I don't have like a bomb shelter or a bunker or anything. Yeah. So the doomsday prepper. Okay. Yeah. Well, are you a doomsday prepper? Do you have a bomb shelter? Yeah. So protests are good, and make sure to read as much as you can, because the protest's job is to get you to pay attention. So if you are paying attention to it, then if you are paying attention to it, then the protest is working. Yeah, I wanna be. I mean, yeah, I feel like to be one of those, you need to like have a lot of cash to be able to buy the stuff that you need, you know, and that obviously does eliminate
you need to have
most
the cash
people on the planet.
or like really know what you're doing.
Yeah. To be an actual doomsday prepper and not just cosplaying as one, you need to pick a good location, and you need to like actually dig far underground, and like it's wild. It is quite in depth. I sent you a video yesterday on TikTok about them taking over a hall at one of the universities. Yes, I saw that as well. Yeah, if we have time, we can go and look at that as well. For now, this is a really cool video that I've been having open for ages, and yeah, I will share it now on Discord, and here we go. So this was amazing to see.
The kids are all right. The kids are all right. We've seen campus protests and encampments sweep the nation over the last 2 weeks, literally from coast to coast, Columbia to USC. And the schools, the governments, and law enforcement have been fighting back. Columbia students were asked to sign waivers by 2 p.m. saying that they would end their encampments or else they'll face mass suspension. And this was their response. I ain't reading all that. Free Palestine. Because the thing you got to remember is not only do the students want an end to the genocide in Palestine, they want these universities to divest from companies and monies that are aiding the genocide in Palestine. There's encampments at Harvard, and they sent out something similar to their students. Disciplinary slips, but the students at Harvard had their own slips to give back to the administration, saying that there are no remaining universities in Gaza and the genocide in Palestine is far more disruptive to education than anything Harvard students have done. Universities that remain complicit in genocide may not be granted peace.
Incredible. There are no remaining universities in Gaza. The genocide of Palestinians is far more disruptive to education than anything Harvard students have done. But about this violence, the university is completely silent. In fact, the university remains materially invested in the occupation and genocide. Repeated violations of our moral duty to liberation will result in increased disruption. Universities that remain complicit in genocide may not be granted peace. One of my favorite things about this is how organized it is, and how it's not just a group of people wanting to stand up, but that it is an actual movement, and everyone is being a part of it, but mostly because I think up until this point, our powerlessness has been drilled home so extremely that when things like this happen, unfortunately for the system, it tends to create its own opportunities for dissidents, because once you push people far enough into a corner, they will eventually fight back. But at some point, when there becomes an opportunity to fight back that just requires you to show up, like just requires you to be there. You don't have to fight anyone or do anything. You just have to be there. As in terms like, for example, a protest. It becomes very easy for people who have felt powerless to go, yeah, let's go, let's do it, and you create your own enemies. The fact that they said all of this is so funny. I ain't reading all that. Free Palestine. It's fantastic. I really have so much respect for this movement, and I think that it's important that we not only acknowledge what they're doing here, but we do what they're asking us to do, which is keep attention, keep eyes on Palestine specifically. If we let the student protests be the main talking point for the rest of this issue, then it starts becoming America-centric again, which is not what we want. We want it to stay on what they want us to focus on, which is, of course, Palestine. So keep that in your head. When he said the kids are all right, it reminded me of a song called "Kids Aren't All Right" by The Offspring. That song also comes from that expression as well. The kids are all right is not an original thing. It's like an expression that people say, when kids basically indicate to you that they are that you've given them a safe environment or a good environment to grow up and be strong, members of society. The kids are all right. That's where the expression comes from. And yeah, the kids are indeed all right. We've seen other things like students going up to Harvard students, students in a Canadian university in McGill, renaming names of buildings, names of university buildings to Palestinian cities and stuff. Which is just incredible. We love to see it. And there are QR codes, of course, because of course it's a normal it's a regular organized protest movement that gives information. So there are QR codes to scan, probably links to donate as well. It's just amazing. It's so cool. We love it. All right, and then I think there was one that Tater sent me. Give me a second. Don't worry, Taters. Only Alpherg and Ash will see our DMs. Yeah, this was it. All right, so this one then happened. This building was then taken over in, I think it was Columbia, yeah. So Columbia University is where the protests like officially started, and this was called Hamilton Hall. Was it named after Alexander Hamilton? Is that why it's Hamilton Hall?
The caption for the video says something about it.
Ah. Okay, is in line with
never
historic. No, it's not. It's not, unfortunately.
No, I thought it.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is now renamed. It was well, not officially, but it was co-opted by the protesters, and they renamed it Hind's Hall after Hind Rajab, the it was a little girl who was killed in Palestine. I mean, her and, obviously like 15,000 other children, but her story specifically shook the world because of how public it was and how televised it was, how widely televised it was. So these student protesters took her as a representation of all children in Gaza and renamed this building to be Hind's Hall, which is just the best.
Murdered in Gaza by the Israeli occupation forces funded by Columbia University.
It's just really, yeah, it's amazing. Google said yes, named after Alexander Hamilton. Okay, cool. All right, yeah, and I mean, though that's it really. All we can do is follow along and keep paying attention to what they want us to pay attention to.
I mean,
and make sure to let the protests be vehicles for that change, not the central part of it, because then that takes attention away from the actual problem as well. Yeah, Ash?
The Kiara in me is saying they should get all the knowledge out of the building and then burn it down.
I wouldn't be against that as well.
I'm not against it, but
I can see why you
like. Yeah, I feel like that's just a step too far right now.
What is the what is the correct way to protest, Alpherg?
I think I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not against it. I just
okay.
Right. I don't know how to put it.
I'm not trying to.
Give them a warning first.
I'm not trying to gotcha you at anything. I'm genuinely asking if you think there's a correct way to protest.
Like, I don't think that there's a correct way to protest, but I think, like, there's an escalation to it, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
And would you say that if they resorted to something like this, that especially the law enforcement response would be way higher than it already is? And then they would just
I feel like
flat out destroy the protesters.
I feel like it would be something that at this moment in time, because the protests have obviously gotten out of hand, but to then turn around and burn a building down would somewhat ruin the message.
When there were protests in South Africa, there've been a lot of protests in South Africa over the past few years, and over the past few decades rather, and then there were more during apartheid. Or your audio's out of sync again? Okay, all right. If it is anyone, hold on a second. Is anyone else having this issue where my audio is out of sync with the video that you're seeing? Is anyone else experiencing that? Just let me know if you are.
I can't answer that because I don't watch the YouTube stream.
Oh no,
am
I
watching
know, I
YouTube
know.
Streaming,
but-
I don't have the.
Well, I have it open, but I have it muted.
Okay. It might be.
I just turned it up to. Back and that was good for me.
It might be a Tater's problem, I'm afraid. I don't know how to fix it on my end if no one else is experiencing it except you. Yeah. No, you're not derailing at all. This is good. This is good. I'll come back to it. Don't worry. But yeah, I think I'm not sure. I'm unfortunately not sure what to do to fix it. Maybe you and I can talk about it a little bit later. I'll Google the issue later on, and then we can sort of figure it out. We spoke about it before, of course, and I wanted you to bring it up. I wanted you to bring it up in the stream. I asked you to. So if no one else has trouble, I'll just keep fixing it on my end. Yeah, and I will. I can Google it as well on my end as well and see if we can find a fix for it. Okay. The proportional or quote-unquote right way to protest, right? Is there one? What would be out of hand? What would ruin the message? I'm gonna tell you something about South African apartheid protests that might shake you a little bit. And I'll also tell you about some things that happened in the Palestine's fight for liberation as well. And then I'll start by explaining some of the student protests or some of the worker protests in South Africa as well. So I'll start with these ones because they don't seem as bad compared to others, right? Buses and cars have known to be burned like through and through on the road to these kinds of protests in South Africa, especially with transport workers, union protests and things, where transport workers have been protesting fairer wages and better treatment and, more labor protections against the monopoly that the private taxi industry has over South Africa's transport system that was born out of a necessity in apartheid because there was no public transport that made it to the indigenous African homelands at the time, so they had to make their own. And now this private taxi industry is not only run by the mob, essentially, but it also has a chokehold on the government and stops them from actually creating anything that resembles a robust public transport system. That frustration has made it through to other transport workers who are intimidated by that taxi system. And when they protest, there are often times where the media will focus down on events of violence, like buildings being looted or cars being destroyed. When you hear something like that, I want you to consider whether that changes what you think about their goal. If you think their goal is less noble now, if you think it affects the nature of their goal. Okay, I'll get to another example. The 7th of October, the infamous date where everyone who still somehow supports Israel at this point wants you to never look beyond as historical context. Just start from the 7th of October and then we can go from there, because that makes the most sense. It doesn't, but that's what they would like you to do. Still, on that date, many civilians were still killed. But it doesn't matter because the target was not civilians. The target were military complexes, and many of the people who were killed on that day were belonging to those military complexes. And it was stated that that was the target. And even then, it was still considered an act of violent resistance. Now, the methods that were used the methods that were, or the things that happened as a byproduct of that, do you think that denies, therefore, the need for Palestinian liberation? Do you think that does that cancel out? Because they did that thing on that date, does that mean that they no longer deserve their right to fight for liberation? Do they lose that because they acted a certain way? And then the third example I'll give is during apartheid South Africa, when a practice took place that is a pretty dark place for the struggle for freedom in South Africa, and that's called necklacing. And I don't know if you know what necklacing is, but to put it very briefly, they would put a gasoline-filled like empty tire around someone, and then they would set them alight. And that was that was someone who was an infiltrator or an apartheid supporter, like trying to infiltrate the protests and like undermine them. Someone who was basically a considered a traitor. that was done by the ANC, the main group, the main party fighting for freedom in South Africa. When you read about that, do you therefore no longer think that the South African people should have been fighting for liberation? Do you think that they therefore should stop the protest entirely because that happened? Does their fight mean less because now you know that happened? And for me, and for many others, the answer is no. We can still analyze and see these things as acts that we try not to repeat, but in the midst of them, while they're happening, policing them would be, from the outside, would be counterproductive, and also would be kind of a weird way to illustrate that we believe that we know what it feels like to be those people, and we don't. The experiences of Palestinians when they engage in acts of violent resistance, and South Africans when they engage in acts of violent resistance, and students when they engage in acts of violent resistance, it's important to realize that the feelings and things behind that would, I would say, oh, damn, I've lost it. But you get what I'm trying to say. Now, having said that, the student protests for something like Palestine are perhaps not necessarily people who are on the ground in Gaza experiencing these things, but they are still protesting what is going on there. And I think therefore that what you were saying about keeping it a certain way or not going too far with something is maybe, I would say, a little bit less, a little bit more able to be talked about than if we were talking about Palestinians fighting for their liberation, which I would not talk about at all. And by the way, this is a very separate discussion from the ends justify the means. This is not the same. It's not the same thing. We have to distance ourselves from that. And also, we also have to understand that students are not just protesting for Palestine, but they're also protesting for the actions of the American government. And basically just, they are still protesting their own country and protesting what the American government does anyway. And also protesting the police response to their protests as well, because that's its own problem. And in that protest, I think policing the way that people decide to protest would be counterproductive to the protest itself and shouldn't undermine the goals of the protesters, as many would like to have you believe. Some of the first responses that came out after it came out that a single bus was burned in a student protest in South Africa, there were so many people around me in my environment that said, oh, well, they've just lost all their credibility now. And I'm like, but no, because the cause is still there. It doesn't go away just because they did something on the way, like bad on the way to it. And you weren't there, you know? Yeah, those are my feelings on the matter. And I don't think that if someone else is uncomfortable with a certain means of protest, that's totally fine. If you feel that you don't think that you would do something like that, if you think that if you believe that it would be a step too far to do it like that, like for you personally, then that's completely fine. It's not really a criticism that I'm putting forward here. I'm really just attempting to give historical context and understanding to the methods that people use during protest, and that sometimes extreme things do happen, and we should try to avoid loss of life as much as we can during these acts of resistance, but understanding that some things that go down are designed to disrupt and designed to be uncomfortable. You had this conversation yourself the other day, Alpherg, when we were talking about it in Discord, about how protests are designed to be that force of disruption.
So I will say, when I had said that, I wasn't specifically meaning about like it would ruin the message for me, but just at large in the public. But with you going through everything else, it does, for myself, highlight that cognitive dissonance of, I think there's a line, but I can't place where that line is at. And looking back historically is very different than in the now.
That's it, isn't it? The thing
And
is,
so it's that cognitive dissonance of there's a line, but I don't see that line, so I can place that wherever I want. So I right now could say that is too far, but then in
That's
20
true.
years look back and go that was actually the right move.
that wasn't far enough. Yeah, you might even say that it wasn't far
yeah.
enough. It depends. History provides us with a lot of important hindsight, and if we look at something as a historical event, we see what happened as a past thing. But something that's happening right now, it's difficult to distance ourselves from that because it's happening right now. But we should apply the same standards now as we did back then, and make sure to hold people accountable if they do things that are reprehensible, but understanding that in protest, not much is reprehensible. Yeah, go on, Ash.
If you want a fictional representation of protests and stuff, let's look. We could look to Cyberpunk because good old Jonathan Silverhand nuked a building, which that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
It changed nothing.
Really? I don't know the plot of Cyberpunk.
He nuked a building, nothing changed. But he nuked a building, but you know what? He also issued a building-wide evacuation order for everyone inside before it went off, so...
There are... I think I personally would do my best to limit, like I said, limit the loss of life, the loss of unnecessary life, especially from civilians, because civilians, obviously, are not responsible for the actions of a government. Even if they are sometimes complicit in the actions of a government, I would say that property damage is 100% a line that I would cross, and I would do it all the time. I'm not saying I'm about to go do it now. I'm not engaging in any protest action right now, but if I was, I wouldn't shed a tear if a building got broken into or looted or whatever. Protest is meant to be uncomfortable, to be loud, to be noticed. The longer it goes unnoticed, the louder it gets. Yes, I would argue the louder it must get. If it goes unnoticed, it has to get louder. It must be. This is what Alpherg and I were talking about. If you keep the protest even the same method, then people get used to it. The state becomes wise to methods to stop it. You need to keep switching up the methods that you use for protests. Not necessarily by escalating, but by differently moving through streets and doing acts of disruption and stuff. Yeah. So yes, it is tricky to look at. I did specifically separate the ends justify the means from this conversation because the means here are not. First of all, the means are a way to put the protests forward. And when you engage in a violent act in the middle of the protest, and I'm talking about specifically property damage, but also there's some other stuff that could happen there too. It is something that we try to. You can't look at that as the number one goal of the protest. It is a byproduct of it, and then you have to look at how we treat certain acts of protest as being more morally reprehensible than others, and you'll find that especially when a large group of people have this done to them, that people generally in our circles, in our societies, will see the damage done to buildings and property as way more morally reprehensible and damaging than the harm done to actual human beings and actual people. And that comes from a long multi-generational lesson that we've all been taught about valuing property over human life, which is something I can go into in later detail. But I have also talked about it in a Mass Effect stream a couple of months ago when we played Mass Effect 1. Yeah. In fact, I know exactly when I was doing it. We were on Noveria. Yes.
I just want to point out that this right here is human nature. The protests, I mean,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
because I mean, just at large, it's animal nature, where if if an animal, if their needs are unmet and they're neglected, they become violent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm looking at things on Imgur, and I just found a couple of comments to do with the Israel-Palestine protests.
Oh, yeah?
And
Yeah,
I'll put them
go
in.
for it.
I'll put them in Nomad.
Okay, let's see. Tell me they're nice ones. Oh, that's a good. Oh, that's a good one. That is a bar. All right. Someone says, personally, I'm tired of being expected to pick sides in someone else's fights. And the reply to that is, it's always someone else's fight until it's your fight, and nobody cares. That is, in a nutshell, that is. First they came for the communists, I think is the name of the or first they came for the Christians, maybe. I think is the name of the poem, and it's it was written in the context of the Holocaust, and when Nazis came for various groups of people, the poem was written from the perspective of a person who was also tired of picking sides in someone else's fight and didn't really seem to care until they came for the writer of the the writer of the poem, and by that time there was no one left to stand up for them. And
the poem is just called. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
The poem is just called "First They Came," and it starts with first they came for the communists."
Okay, cool. Yeah. Essentially, it is a lesson in understanding how systems move and work, and how when this happens halfway across the world, it still affects us. The fact that we know enough about it to be able to talk about it from the other side of the planet is a blessing. Because many years ago, people would have gotten away with this shit right under our noses, because all we could really look at to disseminate information was our local news, bought and paid for. And now we have people on the ground who can communicate the messages to us directly. It's amazing. The fact
Not
that we
even that
have
many
this
years
knowledge.
ago.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, this is being heralded
Within
as,
lifetimes.
what's happening in Gaza is being heralded as the first live-streamed genocide. We can see it with our own eyes all the time. And sure, that's sometimes exhausting, but it's also amazing to be able to be connected with other people in this way, to know what is deeply wrong and to be able to do something to change it. That is a blessing. And I will forever be grateful that I know more about what is going on in the world, and that I can actually speak about it and think about it and realize how it works, so that I can be prepared when it spreads, because it almost invariably does.
And I just want to quickly piggyback off of the comments that Ash found.
Oh yeah? Go for it.
So the reason that I was thinking so much about the protest today was because during our daily meeting at work, we do our meeting in the break room, which always has a TV playing CNN. They were talking about the protest, and I had seen the clip where somebody had thrown a firework into the crowd. And my immediate thought was, oh, you're trying to actually kill somebody. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And
But me and a coworker.
It was a counter-protester, I think.
I think I hope so, at least.
Yeah, I saw reports of counter-protesters like literally bringing fireworks and then throwing them over the lines. But yeah, go on.
Nice. But my coworker and I had gotten into it about it, and they were like, or they had said that they don't need to be disrupting learning. You know, who's going to pay me back for my money out of the education that the learning that I'm not getting now? And to me, that's very self-centered because you've now placed yourself at the center of that protest. You said you can protest as long as you don't disturb me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Well, it places yourself as being more important than what's being protested.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's like, well, what about the Gazan kids who don't have a university to go to at all?
Yeah. Which is what the protest is there to highlight. And I think if you are disrupted by this, it should be a moment of self-reflection for you. It should be a moment where you go, wow, this is a little taste of what these other people have to fight for. And I don't want this to happen to me. So I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen to other people. And engaging in that line of thinking is a sign of empathy. Understanding that if something disruptive is happening to you and it doesn't feel good, realizing that for other people that the protest is fighting for, it's worse. And realizing that therefore, you're going to make sure that it doesn't happen there because you wouldn't like it if it happened to you. That is the basis of empathy. And yeah, that was my opinion when I was concerningly when I was in 2016 when there were protests. I talked about this before, but my opinion was also very much, why is my education being disrupted until the protesters were able to educate me further and open my mind on the topic. And more specifically, the line that protests are meant to be disruptive really stuck with me. And the other thing was if you yourself find yourself just watching it or just being mildly inconvenienced by something, imagine how it must feel to be living in that. And don't think of it as something there's a sort of half empathy where you can think, like I said before, where you can think, imagine if that happened to you. But then if you evolve that into full empathy, you think, no, I'm going to fight for it even if it doesn't happen to me. Because it's not about me. There are other people suffering, and if I'm in a position to do something to help, I will. And that, I think, is the mark of some of the best of us. I don't think I would expect that level from everyone, but the ones who do, I salute. Okay. All right, does anyone else have any thoughts about this?
Just on the thoughts of being frustrated by protests. There was some in Belgium a while back. I think it was like to do with the farmers and such. Can't quite remember.
Okay.
But it backed up all the major roads and shit.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and a friend of mine works at a shop. And he was frustrated because they needed new stock and none of their new stock was coming. So his work was on his ass. He was getting stressed and I think at the time he was also still recovering from shattering his elbow.
Damn.
And so not exactly in the best headspace overall. And then this hit and he's all like, oh, why can't they be less disruptive about it? And I'm like, that's kind of the point, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, work's shitty for you because of it, but it's kind of the point that they need to be. Otherwise, what's the point? It's
if business as usual is not disrupted, it's not a protest, and nothing will change. And engaging in empathy for this person who's probably having a really tough time right now, and that's totally understandable.
He was focused because, it's part of his job, and they don't have enough stock to properly stock the store. And then when the stock does come in, it would have been sat in heated trucks for potentially days because of the backup, and then so a lot of it would probably have to be thrown out anyway when it did get there. And,
Put
it's
yourself...
that's shitty. Sorry, but that's kind of the point.
It is the point. Rather than there's something that's important about this very valid frustration that people feel when their lives are disrupted. And that is to know, where do you put your frustration? Do you put it at the feet of the protesters who are fighting against the injustice? Or do you put it at the feet of the people who are causing the injustice that necessitates the protests anyway, in the first place?
Why can't they just put their feet against me? What?
Wait, your coworker, like
You
this
can't
friend of
what
yours
your own
specifically? Wait, hold on. Wait, this is someone you know
continue.
specifically? I'm just okay. All right.
All right, Dan Snyder.
It's about where you place your frustration. This is
I
something
thought you were
that,
going to about where you place your feet. My mind was
you'll-
still on feet. I'm sorry.
You'll find often during workers' strikes as well that the opposition to these strikes, the people who are disrupted by them, look at the strikers and they say, why are these people striking? Rather than looking at the employers and saying, why are these people necessitating a strike? Why are you creating an environment that leads people to want to strike in the first place? Because if people were happy, they wouldn't want to strike. And it's the same for these protests. Why are you centering it on the protesters? That's not what they want you to do. They're disrupting so that you look at the problems. They're disrupting so that you can place the blame at
Look
the
at
feet
why
of
they're
those...
protesting.
Exactly.
Not that they are protesting.
Place the blame at the feet of those responsible for these problems. The protesters are a byproduct. They are an exercise of the will of a population. And to place yourself at odds with that is to risk placing yourself in the camp of the system and in the camp of these problems that these protesters are fighting about. So, crack open a book. Just educate yourself about what's going on. Make sure that where you throw blame, it is thrown at the right places and not at people who are trying to raise awareness about it. Nor, though uncomfortable as it may be, their methods of protest. And I think that's a nice place to end it.
I think so,
So,
too. But I have just one very last thing to say.
Go for it.
Speaking of cracking open a book, I finally got around to ordering that Anarchy and Other Essays recommendation. Today.
There was months ago where I recommended Anarchist
It was
reading
months
to you.
ago. That's what my comment was in the Discord server earlier.
Right. Well, now you're there, and I'm glad to hear that you are. I'm glad to hear that you're reading it, or that you're going to.
No,
For those of you confused, Alpherg was asking about the school of anarchist schools of thought, and I gave him some resources. And
School of Rock.
Good movie.
All right, everyone. With that, we're going to take a small break. I'm going to refill my water. You should do the same. And when we come back, we will be reading.
I'm not going
Thank
to
you for
refill
this,
your water for you.
Thank you. Go now. Go do it.
No, I'm not refilling
Here's
your
the
water.
glass. Walk to the bathroom. Go refill the water. Do it now.
Oh, I'll fill it with something.
Right, goodbye. Don't go away. We're taking a break. But we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Entertain the chat.
No.
Don't ruin apple juice for me, please.
What? I didn't say anything about apple juice.
Exactly.
You're crazy. That was crazy once.
They left me in a room. Too close. Sorry. he going?
He's
Top-
going down local well.
Yeah, okay.
Ash, why?
Like, damn, this is.
Why were you doing like the Matthew McConaughey thing?
What?
Were you-
All right.
What were you
I
singing?
was just
No,
making
no.
noise. I was just making noise.
It sounded like the Wolf of Wall Street Matthew McConaughey thing, like that was.
Oh, when he's pounding his chest.
Yeah.
No, I was just doing noise because it was quiet and my brain went brrr.
That as it does.
Yeah.
All right.
When the brain goes blur.
We have 2 things to read today. One from our dear Ash, who has apparently written more.
Yeah, not much more, but it's small.
Is it the same? Is it the same doc as before?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's continuation.
Is it
I have
continuation?
also written more.
Okay. So where are we?
I also wrote like over half of it like half an hour before the stream, so
With my doc currently open.
Good to know. All right. Yeah, I have the doc here. Where did we stop? Can you give me a place to stop?
well, I actually titled the new section.
Reunion. Okay. All right. We'll get there. All right. So, to recap where we were before,
I think
if I can.
I think that's where we got to.
Okay. Well, let me. Let me go here.
It might have been the paragraph before that might be new as well. I can't remember. Oh fuck.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna adopt my reading. Oh God.
Quick, so we'll go back to the previous readers stream and find out.
No, I'm pretty sure it was when that prisoner released her. That was it. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it might be where it says reunion and the paragraph above that I think is
Okay. All right. I'm gonna put myself up here. Great. Okay. So, where last we left off in this story, we had a moment of these security 2 floors down. So basically, we're in a prison, and Samantha Bryce, the main character, is. This is basically like a Game of Thrones Night's Watch kind of vibe, where they get sent to guard this prison that is orbiting a black hole, and it's only got like 1 convict in it, and that convict is like super powerful.
But they don't know it's a prison.
But they never knew it was a prison. They just figured it was their permanent
just thought-
station.
Yeah.
And
You
obviously,
just thought it was like, oh, we're stationed to this fortress now. There we go.
yeah. And isn't 512 like a number that recurs in this story as well?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've seen 512 quite a few times, and we basically what happened in the first part of the story was Samantha was reading something that but by the person in the prison, and then the prison exploded over, like there was this big security breach, and it tried to get pulled into the black hole, as was its security protocol, but it got stopped, and now the prisoner is loose, and Samantha sort of walked through the corridor, and everyone was dead except for the one person that she loved, and then she spoke.
Everyone was just gone.
Oh, they were missing. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we found. Sorry, it's been a while. And then we found the culprit, the convict, who is of course a beautiful woman, true to form, and said something about how they need Samantha. Alessandra is the other one, right? The one that she's boinking. Okay. And then Alexandra is my sister's name, so Alessandra is a little bit close. And then there's also the mysterious Antonasia. That's her name. I remember. All right, and that's it. Basically, you two will be the only survivors. I'll be in touch, and then she's gone. And we don't know what she wants. And that's it, basically. She says,
That's
Yeah,
all she wrote.
she said, suddenly she stings, a blinding light filling her vision, and then she wanted to raise her arm. She clamped her eyes shut, letting them recover from the sudden overstimulation to find herself in a living room. Okay, so, yeah, she carries Alessandra through the doorway, and, oh, no, this is where we stopped. We stopped here. I think I'll start reading from here, and then we'll get to the next bit. Yeah, the room went dark. That was it. This was where we stopped. Okay, cool. So we're gonna start from here. If you'd like to read along, it's right here, and then I'll. Am I streaming on Discord? I will stream so that the rest of you can read in real time.
Thank you.
And here we go. Okay, I definitely need to make my own. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to make a duplicate for this, and this is going to be reading, and I'm going to make, because this is a very specific outline that I prefer. Okay, cool. And then I will just quickly make this a, yeah, I will quickly make this a thing. This is going to be reading, and then we want, maybe there's an icon here. I'm just changing things on my stream deck so that I can have this here. There you go. Okay, cool. All right, sick. So, here we go. So she's just left, Antonasia's just gone, and telling Samantha that she and Alessandra will be the only two survivors. Here we go. Samantha stood staring at the now empty spot before her. Her mind was trying to comprehend everything that had just happened, but how could she? How would she explain any of this? Who would she explain it to? The next shipment of new arrivals could take years to come, and communications were down, so she couldn't send a distress signal to call for help. The Bastion was an arcology, fully self-sustainable, so at least she and Alessandra could survive together for a while. Not that either of them knew how to operate any of the systems, if they even still worked. The lieutenant carefully hooked her arms under Alessandra's legs and back, holding her securely as she picked the unconscious woman up.
I think you mean lieutenant.
Trigger the warning. Trigger the yawning. Yes.
Yes. That's what you call a callback to the start of the stream.
Lieutenant is a lovely full circle moment to the correct pronunciation of lieutenant.
It comes from a French word.
Indeed. Lieutenant. That's why we don't say. Yeah, I'm sure everyone needs to pronounce it like that now.
Yep.
Lieutenant?
Left a yes.
Left, yes?
You said left a no?
Always got left.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
Left is best.
That woman, Antonasia, told us to leave the room, so that's where we'll start. The rest we'll have to figure out together once you wake up, she whispers softly, carrying Alessandra through the doorway. Suddenly, Samantha's eyes stung. A blinding light filled her vision. Instinctively, she wanted to raise her arm to cover her vision, almost dropping Alessandra in the act. She clamped her eyes shut, letting them recover from the sudden overstimulation before slowly opening them to find herself in a living room. A living room. Not the corridor she'd previously stumbled down, but seemingly the living room of a spacious home. A gentle fire roaring in the hearth. Okay. Then we go to this new chapter, Reunion. Can we, oh, just before I start, we'll start for real. What kind of feedback are you looking for here? Are you just looking for eyes on the work? Are you looking for proofreading? Are you looking for theme analysis? Like, what sort of feedback are you interested in for this?
Really.
Okay, cool. All right, we're keeping it broad then. Reunion. Samantha had checked again and again, and a third time just to be safe. This was her house, though she had no memory of buying it. But according to all the deeds and every bit of information she could find, she'd purchased it 10 years ago and had been living there ever since. Huh? Hello? Okay, huge change of environment and questioning whether everything is real. Very confusing in a good way. This is good. I like this. It had been a day since she met Anastasia, since her life was flipped and twisted. Alessandra was still resting, and she'd awoken not long after arriving in this house. Samantha tried her best to explain the situation. Both decided to allow them a few days to try and process everything. Oh my god, please. It's whenever I start reading out loud that I start yawning because I don't breathe enough.
He's already bored.
That's it. Samantha sat on what was apparently her couch, still trying to make sense of it all. Sam? Sam? A voice called from upstairs. Lizzie? Samantha called back and immediately jumped to her feet, then rushed up the stairs into their bedroom, and there she was, awake, confused, still in her uniform. Samantha practically pounced on the woman, wrapping her arms tightly around her in a warm embrace. Bam, 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 bam. Footsteps echoed through the chamber, bouncing off of rows of white stone pillars, veined with gold. Ooh, veins. The same stone used for the immense vaulted ceiling, the floor, and the walls. The hall was lit with traditional fire sconces, placed throughout so that as much shadow as possible was dispelled from every corner. A singular window sat at the back, as tall as the ceiling was high. Stained glass depicting a red planet at the bottom, with 12 moons of various sizes laid out along the length. 12 moons. Interesting. It's not one of ours. This is more... Okay. Before this window was a throne, again made of the same white, gold-veined stone. Atop this throne was Antonasia, sat in a manner where one leg was hooked over an armrest, and her back was nestled into one of the corners between the back and the opposing armrest. Oh, she's got to be cool. She's doing the Thane look. It's great. Just a...
Kind of, but like if they had one leg hooked over the armrest, you know?
Just Thane with more attitude. Great.
Yeah.
Not Thane Krios, mind you, the person we do on stream, but more like the Thane of Whiterun, or Thanes in Skyrim. And her back was nestled, blah, blah, blah. She held in her hands a book, one of actual paper, bindings, and leather. And so it is written, the day will come when the black star shall light our sky. This is so cool. All right, so just to recap something that's happening very interestingly here is that we are swapping scenes very quickly, but it is meant to give us a it's meant to just pull us along, and in this case as a reader your job is to trust the process and to be confused for a while. Sometimes when you are reading something that doesn't immediately make sense, trust that the writer will make it make sense later. Trust that there is an explanation, you just have to keep it in your mind. So when these things start happening, when scenes change very quickly, it's important to realize the strategy here, which is to just kind of pull you through a couple of scenes just for some exposition, maybe hidden in the lines or between them, so that you can have a little bit more context before we focus down on a particular character's story. I really like this, by the way. You mean sometimes the author doesn't have to explain everything right away? Yeah, I know, right? It doesn't have to be a whole,
wild,
like 50. The first 50 pages of the book is not just going to be a history lesson. It's crazy. Yeah, so especially with fantasy and fiction, fantasy as well, like sci-fi and fantasy, it's a very common trap to fall into as a writer, to want to explain everything right out the gate. Just don't. It's okay.
Well,
you can
I did some of that at the start, but also disguised it as a history lesson for the actual character in the story as well.
Oh yeah. And I didn't even feel that it was full exposition either. Like I thought it was great. So that's a good way to do it. So sometimes one of the ways you can give exposition is have a character who is new to the world or new to the field, and then have someone else explain it to them. That would be the easiest way, I suppose, for both writer and for reader. But there are more engaging ways to go about it. And more subtle ways if you can think about it. So give it, as a writer, everyone here, when you're thinking about waxing expositional and trying to give more lore for the world, try and think of some clever ways to do it that don't make it feel like the reader is just reading exposition and background information. Like was done here. Okay. Also, note that we're going through scenes that are also in themselves very confusing, because why is Samantha in a house now? Like, why is she not on a station orbiting a black hole? So we're gonna get there. The approaching footsteps stopped, 10 meters away, and spoke. And they, without voice, will sing in praise. A low, gravelled male voice finished, cutting through the room like a scalpel. I thought I had all those texts destroyed. The man stood at a height of 6 feet and 5 inches, wore a well-groomed short hair and beard, salt and peppered by age. His features were sharp and his eyes a pale green. A neat, fitted white suit clings to his body, a short cape covering one shoulder and arm. This is very nice. A very good and very, like, easy to digest, very clear-cut description of someone that really immediately puts an image in my mind. Really, really cool. You missed one. It was in my pocket. As if to emphasize the point, Antonasia then tucked the book back away inside of her coat, but stayed seated in her rather unconventional manner. Alessandra hugged back, her arms held onto Samantha like she never wanted to let go. I remember. I was alone. It was dark. Nothing. Samantha gave a heavy sigh. It's okay. I'm here, the woman whispered gently into her lover's ear, fingers brushing through her hair in a soothing manner. The pair shared a kiss, a deep connection that washed through them like a calming wave. Their stress and confusion surrounding the whole event they'd been put through washing away, like drawings in the sand of a beach at high tide. Cool. Cool expression there. Okay, so I see what you've done. This is what we talked about, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Very cool.
That's why I asked.
I didn't realize you were going to do it right now, but this is so sick. Okay. Yeah. Again, as a reader, trust the process. We are being taken on a journey, all right? And there's a reason that these kind of, these sort of scene switches are happening so quickly. I want you to think of it more cinematically as a reader. Think of it like you're watching a TV show. And I'm definitely, by the way, this is very effective. I'm not confused in a bad way at all. I'm definitely along for the ride. It's really, really apparent that that you've done a good job with this. The man gave off a rather forced, dry chuckle at the response. How very droll. How very you. I assume there's a reason you're desecrating my throne. I'll be honest, I rather expected you to come here near all aggressive and irritating, Antonasia sighed, readjusting her position to sit with her back fully flushed to the backrest of the throne. And I expected far more destruction and wrath upon your escape. I suppose we are both disappointed today. The Emperor responded. The Emperor? While angling his eyes.
He said it was his throne.
Damn! To look past Antonasia and focused instead on the glass mural extending up behind her. What's on the mural? But no, we're gonna camera cut back here. Wait. Are we? Oh shit. Are we? Oh. Are we doing this? Okay, here we go. The lovers embraced each other. Alessandra pushed herself against Samantha and toppled the woman onto her back atop the bed. The world around them melted away. All that remained was them and their bed. How not safe for work is this, by the way?
It's not very not safe for work.
Okay, cool. All right.
Slightly
soft warning.
Spice.
We're going to get spicy now, so I hope everyone is ready for that. Alessandra's hands explored Samantha's form, pushing along the woman's curves, hooking under and around her arms and legs, leaving not a single inch uncaressed, I think, as they share this moment. Leaving not a single inch caressed. She had her hands tied behind her back and refused to touch her.
Well, that comes later.
Samantha's hands pushed under Alessandra's shirt. Oh, God. Delicately dancing her fingers up her lover's belly, curving under her chest and around her back. Oh, no. I'm breaking because I'm uncomfortable. Undressed.
Well, I mean,
leaving not a single inch undressed.
Oh,
Dexterous fingers made short work on the clasp of Alessandra's bra. Oh my God. Freeing it from the woman's chest and tossed it out into the void beyond the woman's current range of concern. That's a cool, I like that turn of phrase. Very cool. Oh no, boobies. All right, and swap scene again. Antonasia's lips curled, her marble-like features cracking into a smile. Oh, far from it, she exclaimed, rising to her feet to go stand inches from the Emperor himself and standing a full head taller. She looked down on him, her inky pupils shifting almost as if resisting against the amethyst prisms that served as her irises. Okay, so she is continuing dialogue from the scene before. I suppose we're both disappointed today. And if you were reading this as a book, and we weren't like analyzing it or giving comments about it as we were going and taking breaks, there would be more of a connection there for us. So keep that in mind. It's this kind of scene works very well if you're reading it all in one go. But if you take breaks between scenes, it can throw you away because you'll forget what happened in the dialogue before, which would take just a little bit of catch up. So I think it's the reason why we were talking about this as a risk, but something that can be very effective, is that this is one of the reasons why it can be a risk. Because if your reader takes a break at any point in this, then they're going to have to like do a little bit of catch up when they come back. But that's it, really. He then looked up at her, his pale green gaze meeting her own. He didn't flinch at the proximity. He didn't even look put off by it. His features remained stern and unreadable. I suppose this is where you tell me why. Her gaze kept itself locked with his. You always were clever, then broke away. Now it was her turn to gaze upon the stained glass mural. She leant down to whisper softly into the Emperor's ear, her obsidian lips almost brushing against it. Something is happening. Right here and far away. The same, but different. She then pulled back and spoke normally once more. Do you not wonder how I escaped? Why now? Why at all? I did walk in there willingly, after all. Oh shit, she put herself in prison. That's crazy. All right, so this gives us a clue as to her actions with Samantha. And now she says, something is happening right here and far away. Obviously, we're talking about, like, there are two things that could be true here. She's either talking about something very different and like something we don't know about, or she's talking about the scene that's currently happening right now with the other two women. And like somehow. And that does also make sense because she's clearly chosen Samantha and Alessandra for a purpose. And now we're learning that she went into the prison voluntarily. So it could be that Antonasia has this sort of prescient idea of a plan. Maybe she walked into the prison because she knew that Samantha would be there, etc., etc. This is my brain
Also,
going as I read.
Keep in mind, the prison is 10,000 years old as well.
Oh, shit. Okay, that makes her 10,000 years old. Okay.
At least.
Okay, so, yeah. All right. I think, this is my brain moving over elements of foreshadowing to try and extrapolate some kind of, not an expectation, but some sort of idea of where the story might be going, and this means it's good. This means it's well written. Okay. Oh, really? 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 There's a whole other page here. It says 14 out of 15, and then there's no 15. I wanted to see more sex, okay? That's all. God damn it. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's it. That was very nice, Ash. I really enjoyed that. I think I really like how you have how you've started to incorporate like really cool turns of phrase, like into the void beyond the women's current range of concern. I thought that was quite cool. And I think I really, really liked this this attempt, the sort of scene switching and stuff. It was really, really impressive. The effect comes across quite nicely. I think I will critique it as a whole once it's done. Once the writing is finished there, I'll be able to look at how effective it is as a storytelling device as a whole. But for now, I at least am able to follow along. And of course, that would be a subjective experience for the reader. I think if you wanted to test how well a certain technique went with your book, you would want to open it to the floor of, more than just me. You would want to open it to a couple people. So I hope I hope everyone else was able to follow along with that as well. And if you were, then that's good writing. So yeah, very nice. I also really like how tastefully this was done. I like reading about romance and and love scenes and things, and I think that oftentimes they can be done as a as a way for the writer to explore their own horniness, but I think that this felt more like this felt more like something that was normal. It feels like they are comfortable with each other, which I thought was very nice. I can definitely feel that there's comfort between the two protagonists, and I think between the antagonist and whoever the emperor is, there's a very nice tension there that is well portrayed as well. That was very cool. Right, I think if there was one thing here, it's not something that I'm picking out. It's more like a vibe that I got that I wanted to focus on. But I think, yeah, I think that the story and the meat of the story is here. You have the makings of a really good story being told here. I think later a proofread would be a very valuable thing to engage in, because there are some commas that should be full stops here and like a run-on sentence every now and then. This is very minor stuff, though. It doesn't detract from the story at all, but as a whole picture, sometimes it can distract the reader to see a couple of them. Of course, this is a draft, so like I'm not that's why I'm not focusing on it as a thing. But yeah, just make sure that the importance of what's really interesting about if you have an attentive reader, the importance of proofreading becomes like way more pronounced, because they're going to pick up on this stuff, and it does tend to it can run the risk of throwing people out. So yeah, we just make sure that things are proofread. Also, I didn't see any 512, so we'll see if that comes back later.
But you did, but you don't realize it.
Wait, where? Hold on.
It's
we're scrolling. Hang on.
No, it's a detail you will not. It's
No!
not actually, you'll not know at all, because
Wait, is 6 feet and 5 inches 512 like centimeters?
No.
Okay, hold on.
I mean, if
Hold
you want
on.
a slight spoiler for something, sure, but it's
No,
like
I'm gonna try and guess it. Hang on.
okay.
Okay, we're gonna look through the words first. Is it maybe the glass mural?
Maybe.
Something on the glass mural? Is it?
Go back to where it's first described.
Where what is first described? The 512?
The window.
Oh, the window. Yeah. Okay. A singular window, stained glass depicting a red planet at the bottom with 12 moons. Very good. Okay. Yeah. So traditional fire sconces, a singular window sat at the back, stained glass. So it was 12 moons, which is 12, and red planet must be the 5th planet from the sun in whatever system that we're talking about. Possibly, if that's 5, this must be planet 5. I mean, to be fair, if it's our solar system, then it would be Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter. So this would be Jupiter, right? But Jupiter's not necessarily red. It's more like an orangey, like beige color. It's got like stripes and stuff. Unless you intended for it to be red. If it is Jupiter, then that's planet 5.
It's not Jupiter.
Okay, but then it must be planet 5 in its own star system. If there are 12 moons. So that's cool. Okay, I found it. Yay! I'm smart. Yay. Yes, I thought these breakups between passages were very well done. There's a really, really nice technique here that is quite effective. So, and here this is one of the risks, because if the scene isn't finished, then I'm forced into a break. I'm gonna have to like come back to this and quickly scan over it before we continue. But for now, as I said, it's just a draft, so it's all good. And right. Yeah, that was good. I really enjoyed that. Good job, Ash. When you wrote this section, is there anything that you were thinking about? What did you like more than most? Was there anything that you want to go back to, hearing me read it? Is there anything that's changed? What do you think about it?
Well, one of the main things I was trying to get across between Antonasia and the Emperor there was that familiarity.
Yeah, it was definitely there. They very obviously know each other, and that's mainly because they already know, like when they meet each other here. Hold on. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, the footsteps were here, and then that's her. Yeah, so this first thing and then completed could have been between strangers, but the fact that they don't introduce themselves is a clear sign of at least some level of familiarity. Even though, you know, obviously if they're two people who think that they're badass, then of course they're not going to say like, "Hi, I'm Antonasia." I think just completing the phrase is a nice way to say that I know at least what you're doing, and then she says you missed one, and then honestly, to be fair, I did assume that they knew each other, but yeah, when he says how very you, that is the key to show that they know each other. And this, I rather expected you to come in here all aggressive and irritating. This is the confirmation that they know each other, and it just kind of it confirms it's. Oh, by the way, that is exposition. They know each other is the easiest way to describe this, but a much more effective way to write this is like this, where you can have the characters signal through their speech and through their actions that they know each other, not through the narrator going, they know each other, because that would be a little bit lazier. So I think this is very effective. So yeah, this confirms it. Everything before that could be interpreted as just people talking to each other, but the fact that they say this means that they know each other. So yeah, that was not lost on me.
Also combined with the context that she's been in prison for the past 10,000 years as well.
Yes, I did. Because we take long breaks before we read sections of this book, I forget details like what's going on up there. So
yeah.
So it's good to have you here to remind me of that. If I was reading this all in one, I would certainly remember that for sure. Very cool. Oh, I like this. I think I enjoy your very, how do I put this? I don't want to say, I think simplistic is a good way to put it. But I will say also, no nonsense is a nice way of describing characters. I think the way that you describe them physically is really clean cut and to the point, which is nice. It doesn't leave me wondering about anything. It really paints a picture as to exactly how they look so that I can place myself in the scene and that's it. So I think that's really nice. Yeah.
See, for there's one very, very major influence for like the appearance and of the Emperor here and how he handles himself, and that was Valkorion from SWTOR.
Oh shit! Interesting. I mean, you've literally said the Emperor, so that makes sense now.
That kind of like presence is,
Cool. Okay. I will say I got that he was certainly a figure of authority, but I think when you describe the character in an only physical way, sometimes the presence that they are made to exude is lost. Which I found through his words that he was a figure of confidence and authority and maybe a little bit of intimidation, but because he's talking to Antonasia, she's obviously not intimidated by him, so you would have to do a little bit more work.
It's literally just those two in the room.
Yeah.
If he was walking through the room and there was it was like an audience kind of thing.
Yeah.
People would react and,
No, for sure. Yeah. So I think the writer there, if you want a very scary character to be introduced as a scary character, if you want his force of presence to be clear from the beginning, then if it's a scene where someone who's not intimidated by him is included, you would have to work harder to communicate that.
Well, that's
feeling.
kind of the point. Like, she's not intimidated by him, and his presence does nothing to her. Like,
what would be quite
Okay.
cool is if you kept it the way it is now, and then when you put him in a room with other normal people and see how they react, it would be a really cool juxtaposition between how Antonasia reacts to him versus how other people do. Yeah.
Well,
very cool.
you saw how Samantha reacted to Antonasia when she first saw her.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why I have more of a context for her, because the first time we see her, it's in the presence of a normal person, and so she seems so much more larger than life. So with that presence in mind, we can then connect to how someone who isn't intimidated by her, Antonasia, I'm saying, is acting, and we can infer that presence from how he reacts to someone inherently scary as nothing. Means that clearly he is used to this sort of thing, which I think is cool. Yeah, very cool indeed. Okay. Nice job, Ash. This was great. I can't wait to see the end of this little scene transition section. And more sexy time. Yay!
So, just what did you think of how I described her eyes as well when she was looking at him? Like
the amethyst part of it.
specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
inky pupils shifting almost as if resisting against the amethyst prisons. I like this. I like this very much. This is what I was talking about when I talked about your like attempts at turn of phrase in particularly this section. Really, really cool. Like the other one I mentioned was this range of concern, but this one just a little bit later was really cool. Amethyst prisons that serve as her irises is a good bar. I also like the fact that if it's shifting as if it's resisting, gives it the appearance of like strained movement, like crazy eyes basically, but it does feel like
it's not just the pupils just expanding or contracting.
Yeah. I can imagine her making like almost imperceptible, like really quick movements with her eyes, just kind of like she's like just beneath the surface. She's actually really angry, but she's keeping it in, and her eyes are the ones that get to show that. Very cool. Oh no, Alpherg, are you back? Is your Discord broken still? Okay, you're back. All right.
It's working right now.
I have a very fun description for her planned, and I'm still trying to figure out where to place it, but it's...
Knowing... Oh, Jesus. Give me a second. Knowing nothing about... knowing nothing about the description itself, place it at the point where you think that it will be the most effectively received by the characters in the scene, but also by the plot itself. See where it can serve the greater plot and have that be the moment where its effectiveness shines. It also might be good if it's a specific description that you foreshadow it a little bit, even in some very
I have kind of foreshadowed it.
Okay, cool. Then that's perfect. Of course, I don't know that because I haven't seen the description, but yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on from one very good piece of writing to hopefully another. This one is for Silv. Yay!
I'll make sure the continuation of the sex scene is like 300% more explicit next time.
Yes! Very good. Very good.
If it doesn't violate the TOS, it's not good enough.
Alrighty. So this is Silv's writing. We're gonna get there in a second. This is called Forsaken, Cursed. And this is WoW fanfic. This is World of Warcraft fanfiction. I'm not sure. I don't know the lore of Warcraft very well. I know a basic understanding of how the Lich King is here and like where he came from, but that's pretty much it. I know some of the races that exist there. I've seen the map before. I know that they're I'm aware of its popularity, but I played it like maybe for 2 hours in my life on a like a times 20 XP server so that we could get levels very quickly. But yeah, it was that was it. I didn't have all that much fun with it because I just don't like the MMO model for myself. The MMO gameplay is very boring for me. The only reason that I ever gave SWTOR, like Star Wars The Old Republic, that much time was because it was Star Wars and the abilities looked cool. But that was about it. So yeah, the MMO formula is just not very like uninspired for me, at least, especially by now. But having said that, I'm aware of its position in the gaming industry and how famous it is and how well known and how much it's earned its reputation.
I think
And this
ESO
is...
had an interesting go at trying to mix up the MMO.
They did have a good
thing.
approach to it. I do like that you had an ability bar, but it wasn't like a point and click adventure. You actually had primary attacks and stuff, which I think is cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not ESO didn't feel that great for me either, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think if I were to think of an MMO that got me that gets me, like, it just gave me the best impression of how to do an MMO in terms of gameplay, Fallout 76. And I think I think that, to me, that's the best attempt at translating just good, solid gameplay to an MMO and just make it Fallout 76. Because and I'm not saying make everything a shooter, but it just feels like a regular RPG in an MMO. It just feels which is exactly what you want. I don't really like this sort of ability bar down on the bottom kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, with that said, let's get into Silv's WoW writing. I have never read anything written by Silv before, so I'm very excited for this. And also, hello, John! Taco, Banana, Carlos, Santana. How the heck is everyone? We're doing great. We're reading some things submitted from other community members. We've just read Ash's thing. We've also been talking
sounds like
a lot
a sleeper
about...
agent activation code.
December. What is the Winter Soldiers one?
I don't know.
What is it like? Train. September 20.
There were
I don't
some
know.
numbers.
Yeah. We've also been talking a lot about the student protests in America at the moment, and how the incredible response to them by the police is a sign that they are working. You can go back and check that conversation if you have the energy for it. But yeah, we're gonna move on with some reading here now. Yes, Alpherg.
Speaking of sleeper agents, I've been watching Game Changers lately, and they have an episode where the contestants have to go out and find sleeper agents by giving them the code phrases.
That's hilarious.
I got so much secondhand embarrassment off of that episode.
Oh my god. They just have to ask strangers on the street. That's fantastic.
Pretty much, they were told there's sleeper agents throughout the lot. You just gotta go running around asking people these questions.
I love that. That's very funny. All right, here we go. Silv, you'll be watching from the VOD, so got 5 pages to go. Oh, also, this is small writing as well, so this is going to be more like 8 pages. Here we go. Forsaken, cursed. A drizzling rain, waves crashing against rocks somewhere further, timbers creaking even with no wind, dreary, wet, eerie. She lifted her hand. Bones were peeking through the fingertips. Oh my god, that's creepy. The raven landed on her hand, ruffled its feathers and cocked its head at her. She briefly saw her own reflection in the raven's eye and let the bird fly again. The raven took to its wings, cawed, and disappeared behind a house. It was barely a house anymore. Half of the roof was caved in. It had been someone's home in days past. And these all had been lives, days past. She looked at the gravestones. Cool little juxtaposition there, talking about lives and then looking at gravestones. Nice. Also, you'll note that the sentence length is quite short, meaning that we are here to, like, it's sort of here to describe quick cuts between scenes, that we just kind of floop, 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 floop. It's a little bit of a it's a way to kind of get a reader into the more into the reading. The raven flew back. It landed on a headstone and cawed. She turned to look at the bird and read the names of the headstone. Of course she knew, she thought sarcastically. She walked towards them, bird and headstone, through a field where stones grew dead names. She recognized the names, had probably known their children or grandchildren. The raven hopped onto the stone right next to the other. Those two were, of course, more decorative than the rest. Jeremiah and Victoria Kaylock. May the light keep them. She knelt, said her respects. The raven flew onto her shoulder. She lifted a hand to the bird, scratched it, and cooed. It preened her hair. Once she had been called raven-haired, and not only because of the bird preening her. Now they were just a mop of dark, unkempt locks. Yet the bird still preened. She rose to her feet, dusted her tattered robes. The cathedral stood imposing in front of her. The bells had been rung. She remembered them for joyous weddings, for sorrowful burials, and for utter chaos. The earthquake, the onslaught. They'd fought tooth and nail. How ironic was that thought now? A wolf howled in the distance. She began to walk to the cathedral. Okay. Quick feedback about this part. Very cool. I like the way that the scene is described. I find it a little bit mysterious that we don't know what she looks like, the protagonist here, or if it is the protagonist, but the character, the sort of the character in the passage. It's interesting that we're still in third person narrator mode, but we're not. We're assuming that the reader knows what the character looks like because she can look at her own reflection. So it's almost like she's speaking about herself in the third person, maybe. It's very interesting, and I like this. We are also getting some descriptions about like her hair and things like that.
Her
Also,
fingies.
and fingies, yes, bony fingers, and also understand that it could imply understand what the descriptions imply, which is very cleverly done here. The bony fingers and the mop of dark unkempt locks implies age or implies a lot of discomfort and uncomfortable positions that
It specifically says it has bones sticking out.
yeah, like sticking out as in like literally the bones, because if that's the case, then
Yes.
that's magical creepiness. So yeah, that's a whole other thing that that we could think about. Yeah. Also, we have just the right amount of mystery without being confused as a reader, which I think is nice. I'm fully in on this scene. I really like the fact that once you've chosen to focus on something, you develop it correctly before we move on to the next thing. And there's something else. There's something else that I've noticed, that the sentences are good. I feel like at some point the sentence length, when we've talked about sentence length before as a device to get readers in. And I see that often if you go through and you write sentences that are too long, they're called run-on sentences. You can really bore the reader because they have to focus so much more to digest your information. But it's a whole different type of focus and getting tired as a reader when your sentences are too short. So when we say vary the lengths of sentences, I mean that in both senses. So don't make them too long, but also don't make them too short. And there were some moments in the first passage, at least, where yes, I think this paragraph is a good way to describe like good sentence length. So she knelt and said her respects. The raven flew onto her shoulder. Cool, nice and short. She lifted a hand to the bird, scratched it, and cooed. Cool. Back to like medium, but still technically short. It preened her hair, super short. Once she'd been called raven-haired, and not only because of the bird preening her. Now they were just a muff. Okay, so and it gets a little bit longer here. It's good. This is nice. I like the sentence variation here. There were some places here where I felt like you were still keeping the sentences fairly short, and I'm not sure if it's a purposeful thing. If it is a purposeful thing, then obviously that's like a style choice, which is fine. But we often talk about sentence lengths as being important to maintain focus in a natural way, so that the reader doesn't have to feel like they're sort of having to keep up with whatever speed you've given based on the sentence length. Okay, moving on from that, let's go to the second scene. Oh, we're still with the same character, but she's now probably walked into the cathedral. Okay. At the entrance of the cathedral, I'll see that. Even in the bleak light, the colored glass attempted a dazzling display. It drew a smile from her, remembering what it had been like in the sunlight. Despite all the terror that had reigned through the whole kingdom, the cathedral had withstood. The light prevailed, she thought, and raised her lantern higher. Standing at the entrance, she could only see halfway through the hall and its pews. The mosaic glass window lent on its own strange light into the room, though not reaching further than the altar and its perimeter. By the way, this immediately can tell, with the sentences being slightly longer, we're now developing more of the passage, and I'm finding, me personally, I'm finding this much easier to read. Very cool. She walked in further through the aisle. She wondered how long it had been since incense was last burned here. It might have just been in her memory, but she could smell it. And she could smell the terror of those cowering in fear for their lives, their faith, the last bastion to fall. Cool phrase. How many years had it been? And yet the scent lingered. A raven cawed outside. Her ears turned. The city had been devoid of life when she had arrived. The only sounds had been the crashing waves in the distance, the timbers creaking as if on their own accord, and the almost silent pattering of the drizzling rain. There had been life here once. Children, adults, elders. The large mastiffs chasing cats, birds, rats, anything they got their sights on. And the ravens. The countryside had been full of them. And she stumbled. Catching herself just before falling, she growled and looked down. She'd walked into a thurible. This is where the scent of incense was coming from. She picked it up, swung it from memory, as she continued her way through the aisle, watching the shadows pass from one side to another, chased by her lantern's light. She climbed the little steps to the altar, and hung the thurible from its hook without a glance. She placed the lantern onto the altar and turned around. This is cool. This implies, without a glance, implies that she's very comfortable here. So not only is the exposition telling us that she's comfortable here, but also that the fact that she's doing it without a glance means that she's also comfortable. She remembered how the cathedral had been full-on joyous wedding days, sorrowful funerals, and for the terror of the earthquake and the onslaught. She growled, her claws digging into the palms of her hands. In anger, she turned away from the empty hall. The stained glass window greeted her. Her eyes on the window, she lowered herself to her knees and whispered a prayer. When she rose to her feet, she noticed a book on the altar beside the lantern. Carefully, avoiding touching it with her claws, she pulled the book to herself. She turned the pages, recognized the handwriting, knew some of the words by heart. She closed the book, gave a conflicted smile to the gilded writing on the cover. Sermons, written by Jeremiah Kaylock. Gravestone man! Okay, so not only does she know the people who are here, but now she knows the people at the gravestone, she knows the people in the cathedral. This must have been her city then, or at least she spent a lot of time here. I want to point out that this scene, joyous wedding days, sorrowful funerals for the terror of the earthquake and the onslaught, and then there's this. Hold on. Hang on. There was something here. Ah, there we go. The cathedral stood imposing. Right. She remembered them. For joyous wedding, for sorrow burials, and for utter chaos, the earthquake, the onslaught. Cool. I don't know if this is purposeful. I would suggest reworking it. If you have... You have this statement here. This often happens. I'm not going to like presume, but I will say as a writer, this kind of stuff often happens when you take breaks between writing passages and you end up writing the same thing twice. This is written almost in exactly the same way as this thing, this one. And I think what I think what may have happened. I don't want to presume, but what might have happened if this wasn't on purpose is that it was just a long time and you wanted to emphasize this, but you didn't realize that you'd written it twice. I think if she's going to remember the same thing twice, it's fine. She's allowed to do that, of course. but describe it slightly differently so it doesn't feel like it's just a copy paste of what happened before. Okay. For a moment, she debated with herself, then decided against taking the book with her. She remembered enough of it, and this place needed the comforting words of faith more than she ever could. She turned page after page to find the one which she would leave open, the one of hope and salvation. It had been her favorite long ago. As she made ready to leave, a thought overcame her. She took the spot behind the altar, brought the book in front of her, and began to read aloud. Even as she was reading, she felt it was a stupid, meaningless gesture, but she could not bring herself to stop. Cool. I like this. So I'm getting a vibe of sadness, and there's a lot of anguish in this main character, and I really like how that is portrayed, not in a very basic way, but there's some complexity there. And also it's leaving me asking, why does she feel like this? But not in a confused way, more of a I can't wait to read more way. It's very cool. Very, very cool. After climbing the stairs, she stopped at the doors. They were blown open, torn. When she began to walk towards the doors, the raven flew off. She paused, remembered, then called the bird back. It was allowed in this time. Oh, a little bit of nice little seed that implies lore as well. The bird returned to her, landed on her bony hand. She scritched the bird as she made her way through the broken doors. Very quick. I know it might feel like I'm nitpicking. It's just something that if something comes out to my head, I'm going to mention it. I'm not sure what kind of feedback you want from me, Silv, watching this on the VOD. So I'm just going to do the same thing I did with Ash. Just like as things come out, I'll talk about them. So when you say the bird here, I would put a pronoun here. Just say it or he or she, depending on if you want the bird to have a sex here. But the I feel like it would feel more natural as a reader. But that's me though.
Also, I think
Yes.
The previous sentences meant more as it was allowed in this time.
Oh, okay. Then maybe a comma would be good here. Just a fairly maybe it's just because I'm not reading it correctly, but it feels like for me it says it was allowed in this time. In this time, I took to mean as in this time period. But it was allowed in this time. Maybe a dash would be good here, just to make sure that you've split that and conveyed that meaning as correctly as you need it to. The walls were still hung with portraits, though the images had long since faded in the cold, wet air. The carpet on the floor had rotted away. Where there had once been flowers to decorate the small entrance halls, now there were only wilted weeds. With the raven on her arm, she continued through the hallway. Then she heard the words, familiar words. She knew these ones by heart. The voice was horrible, like grinding gravel, but the words, hope and salvation. Maybe those were the right words for this place after all. She made her way into the cathedral proper. She stopped at the doorway. There was a monster at the altar. Oh my God! She looked up from the book. There was a monster at the doorway. Wait! Ah! Okay, so I don't... I think the way that you've repeated this is more purposeful because, it's nice to, like, hit that line again, just that there are now two monsters. For the briefest moment, she called her spells to her lips before she began to recognize. A pet raven sounds cool. I agree, Baron. The monster at the altar looked at her. It wasn't snarling? It could be a smile? Aria? The monster's voice was like gravel in its throat. She could barely make out what it had said. Wait, hang on. If it's gravel in its throat, is it like a zombie thing? Like, Aria! the raven called. It turned to look at the raven, and was there fondness in its eyes? Then it turned back to her. She could not quite make out what the beast was saying, but it sounded like it was speaking Gilnean. Gilnean? How do you pronounce that, Ash?
Gilnean.
Gilnean, okay. It held its hands out, took a few steps backwards. It crouched down slowly, then was suddenly racked with pain. In the middle of its painful cry, the hoarse voice turned into the cry of a woman she knew. There, now, in the place of the monster, was the woman. "Marie?" she shrieked, and ran to her. "Hang on. Huh?" This is so interesting. I like this. I think, I don't know if I watched the monster transform or if she just blinked and it was there. I don't know how that transition happened. But it also might be possible that from the perspective of the main character here, she may have just not processed that transformation and just like sees a woman now, which is fine. Very effective in that case. As she held out her hand and backed away from the monster in the doorway,
I don't
she
think
thought
there was a physical transformation, more of a recognition.
Okay, cool. Yeah. In the place of the monster was the woman. That's more of a mental thing, not a physical thing. Yeah, you're right. So she can now recognize it. Also, the monster, what I find interesting, I don't know if this is purposeful or not, but the monster is not described at all, except for its voice, which I think is interesting because it gives... Huh? Where?
It's the first person that the story is talking about.
Yeah, there's a monster at the doorway. Where?
No, at the very start.
Okay, very start.
Because if you scroll down to where, like, the scene breaks, she began to walk to the cathedral, and then suddenly it's inside the cathedral. That's when it's starts as a different person.
Whoa. After climbing
the stairs, just stopped at the doors, and to me that's the entrance to the cathedral.
Yeah, so
Yeah, because at the end of that, she made her way into the cathedral proper.
We're in a different character now. Oh damn.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Oh shit. Okay, my mind is blown. My mind is blown. This is great. This is so cool.
What I was doing. Look at the asterisks.
Oh no! I know, but when for me, I don't know. Blame my gendered brain, thinking that she is the same is the same character. Right? That's so cool. Okay, all right. I love this, by the way, Silv. This is a really cool
also could
technique.
be written that way purposefully to be confusing until this moment.
Yeah. I think this was probably the moment that I should have realized that it was a different person.
I mean, this is when I realized it was a different person. It's like, oh.
What, at the point that we were reading, or at this point?
At this point.
Yeah. Okay, so you're smarter than me. But for now, I didn't catch that at all. But I would blame me more than anything else. Yes?
I'm sorry, but sometimes you just make it a little too hard to be nice to you.
Wow. Hard to be nice to me because I missed a reveal in a book?
No.
Damn.
No, you had said that Ash was smarter than you, and my immediate thought was you're just now figuring that out.
Oh, okay. No, that's a choice that you make, motherfucker.
Wow.
That's not that. Jesus. All right, moving on. Yeah. Now that I know that these are two different characters, this makes a lot more sense. I like the way that this is described. Yes. I think Yeah, I think if you wanted to make this clearer, because this character is if you wanted to make this clearer to a reader like me who could get lost with it, add more elements of description that are slightly different. Because you've said bony hand, which immediately made me think it was the same person. And I know that the strategy is to make me think it's the same person, but then if I'm convinced it's the same person, I'm not going to pick up on that down here. So I think it might be, obviously she's in a different location, and I guess I was not attentive enough to grab that while I was reading it. And especially
she made her way into the cathedral proper, but she was already reading at the altar.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. I should have. Yeah, I think I should have picked up on that for sure. But I think. And then hope and salvation was there as well. Okay, never mind. Yeah, it's just me. All right. Because they were talking about.
That's why.
That's why this is written here as well. The joyous weddings, the sorrow burials, and utter chaos. And then that's why this is here, because I think this is the first character. And I think this is the second character.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's already been in the... So she began to walk to the cathedral, but the colored glass attempted a dazzling display. I think that this is the character that was already in the cathedral, then starts to read, then the first character starts at the back. Okay, right. Just because this is my perspective, I think that to be less confused... I know that at this point, this is probably the intended penny drop, and it's irritating that you're not here, Silv, and you can't explain yourself. But I think that the
how dare you sleep?
Yeah, sleep is not allowed. I'm reading your stuff. The thing here, I think this is the intended like penny drop moment. But if the descriptions are too good and too similar, it completely like messed with my brain. Like I did not know, I to such an extent that I literally just skipped past this. And I think that might also be due to my own streamer brain as well, because I'm streaming so that I'm in the analytical mode, which means that I am missing a lot of the other stuff as well. So keep that in mind too. So yeah, I think if it wasn't me, I would say some kind of, unless they are the same looking character. Like if they look the same, then that's also confusing. Yeah. Okay, let's presume I'm trusting the writer and trusting the process. And also, yeah, okay. I'll put this in Discord when I post the VOD, but at this point, I realized that everything else that I've said in the form of productive feedback was actually very purposeful, which is why I said just in case it's not purposeful, and then I gave the feedback. But now I know that it is purposeful, so you can ignore all of that. Yeah, so Arya is the monster, and then Marie. Okay, so they know each other. And then also Marie up here is... Oh, no, it was Victoria. Okay, all right. So Arya and Marie. Yeah, okay. All right, here we go. So now we are at the monster in the altar. Looked at her. And now we're on the... Now we're on the one at the doorway. And now we're on the one at the altar. Okay. As she held out her hand and backed away from the monster in the doorway, she thought that she must be a fool for going through with this. Anyone could be carrying a raven. Anyone could be visiting the ruined, forgotten cathedral. Anyone could do both things at the same time. And yet, again, she could not bring herself to stop what she had started. She crouched down and prepared herself for the pain. She never could prepare herself for it. The druids did it without so much as a grimace. She, on the other hand, She screamed as her muscles and bones forced themselves into another shape. Marybeth Kaylock, my cousin's name is Marybeth, sat panting on the floor of the cathedral, her graying hair a mess around her head, her old hands shaking from the effort. She heard her name being called, heard the monster in the doorway run at her. She looked up. It was her sister. Okay, and Kaylock were the ones they were the preachers in the cathedral, so, okay, these must be children maybe, or grandchildren, I don't know. Aria Bell Kaylock dropped to her knees and grasped her sister's hand in her own. Okay, now we know. So if it was a reader like me, slightly slower on the uptake, I would have known by now that it was a person, that it was two different characters. Then she saw the gross difference between the healthy skin of her sister and her own gray, dead, bony hands. She pulled them away, lowering her eyes to the floor. Aria, it's all right, her sister said, and reached out to grasp her hand again. She lifted her face to look at the human. No, she wasn't human anymore. Her sister was a worgen now. She, on the other hand, she was forsaken. I do not know this lore, but I can imply it's okay. Implications.
Worgen are basically werewolves.
Okay, cool.
But they can transform willingly.
Okay.
Forsaken or undead people.
Ah, nice, okay. The raven cawed. I missed you too, Lena, Marie said. Aria sat there, still too shocked for words. Her sister looked so much older than she remembered. But it hadn't been that long. It couldn't have been. Can you... Marie's voice drained. Her once beautiful dark hair was riddled with gray strands. Her face was old. Yet she sounded exactly the same as she had always. She swallowed and continued. Can you still talk? Aria was silent for a moment, confused. Then she realized she hadn't said a word. Yes, she burst out. She'd almost forgotten Gilnean, but the words came to her eventually. Yes, I can. Marie, I missed you so much. I thought you died. And I thought... She stopped mid-sentence, paused briefly, then continued. That I'd lost you completely. No, Aria would have cried if she could have. She was lost. She was forsaken. I'm sorry for what they did to you, she cried out. Maria reached out and hugged her to herself. Startled at first, Aria stayed there, feeling warmth for the first time. You had nothing to do with anything that happened here, Marie whispered. Her big sister always soothed her, found the right words. She was right. Aria had nothing to do with the horrors that had happened here. There they sat, a moment of silence on the cathedral floor. The vastitude of the hall surrounded them, the only building to stand in this part of the city. Somewhere far away, waves crashed against stone. Somewhere outside, the wind picked up and the rain grew stronger. In here, the walls of the holy building kept them safe, in their moment of silence. The silence was broken when Marie gasped, let go of Aria, face twisted in pain, and stepped back. Aria was by her side immediately, bony hands on her sister's shoulders. What's wrong? I can't keep this form for long. Hurts, she said through gritted teeth. Need to change. Step back. Aria obeyed her big sister. She always had. Then she had to watch as her sister cried out, her body contorted in sick ways. Claws burst from her fingers, her legs twisted, her face deformed in front of her eyes. Aria reached out her hand, but the motion was useless. She would have cried if she could have. After a moment that seemed like hours, a worgen sat on the cathedral floor, panting and whimpering. Marie, are you all right? A stupid question, but she needed to. The worgen smiled briefly and then grimaced in pain. She rose to her feet and gently flexed her limbs. Aria followed up quickly. Yes, I am. In a moment, at least. The voice, despite the hoarse sound, was still her sister's. Aria reached out to hold her hand. Marie took the offered hand, fur and bones against each other, held together. I don't know how the druids do it, Marie tried to joke, smiling. It looked more like a snarl to Arya. She dropped the expression quickly. Arya looked at her sister. The short fur on her face was flecked with grey, particularly around her mouth. Otherwise, she was darkly colored, her thick mane a match for the glory that her hair had been in her youth. Even in the lupine face, Marie kept her eyes green, gentle, wise, and kind. Arya, on the other hand, she knew her face to be a monstrosity. Her eyes were nothing but yellow balefire on a pit of blackness, her skin a dead grey strung uselessly over her skull. Her once beautiful hair had degraded into a hideous mop of dead, but yet her sister looked at her, smiled fondly, a warmth in her eyes. Her brow furrowed slightly. She looked up and turned her ears towards the door. Arya, dear, I think I need to go, she said, dropping her ears slightly. Arya nodded. The ship's crew are probably getting restless. I don't want them to come looking for me and find you. They know I'm at the cathedral. Ship? Arya gasped. With her ears pinned, Marie nodded. Yes. I'm sorry, dear. They're scouting whether Gilneas could be retaken. What are you sorry about? Gilneas belongs to us. Marie backed a step, looking at her sister incredulously. Arya realized what she'd said. No, I'm sorry. Not the Forsaken. I never wanted to be one of them. I'm Gilnean. I will always be. Gilneas belongs to us. It should. But I do not know whether we'll ever be able to return. The world is changing, fast. We were stuck behind our wall too long, heads in the bushes. Marie paused. She'd taken that phrase from the Worgen she'd managed to escape with. Though she'd made heads in our asses sound a little more tactful. Arya sighed and turned to look around the cathedral. I need to go, Marie said suddenly, her posture tightening and her ears swiveling on her head. It looked so unnatural in Arya's eyes. I can hear them, she continued in a hushed tone. Please, Arya, hide. Don't be caught. I can't lose you a second time. Marie pulled her into a tight hug. I'll always love you, little sis. Me too, Arya whispered. Now she could hear voices calling out for Marie. Her sister withdrew from the hug and placed her nose against her forehead as a kiss, before briskly walking towards the cathedral doors. Please don't get caught, ever. I love you. I love you too, sis, Arya said. Soon she could hear Marie talking to the others outside. It was berating tone, but she wasn't sure what was said. Voices answered, but they were retreating now. Arya stretched out her arm. The raven hopped onto it. She brought the bird to her chest for a hug. The bird cooed at the owner. Once the voices had died down completely, the Forsaken walked to the altar. She took the priest's place behind it and began to read the sermon of hope and salvation aloud. Wow. Very cool. Okay, a couple of things. Shit. First of all, while I'm reading this, when I read aloud, I catch a lot less than when I'm actually just reading on my own. Reading aloud is its own thing, and it requires its own level of focus that distracts me from like picking up on other stuff, because when I'm reading for other people as well, so that's another consideration that I make. But when it comes to there's also something else that I was thinking about as I was reading this, and that is that I actually think you did this really well. I have no way of knowing whether I would have known this if I was reading on my own, whether I would have caught this when everyone else did. But because it was just me that was confused, don't take that as critique. It's really just if it's just one person, I wouldn't take it as like heavy critique. But yeah, because I have no idea whether I would have Yeah, I have no idea whether I would have actually caught it before. But yeah. That means that I think there's the main point that I want to make here is that as a lesson to people who are critiquing things, a lesson that I should have been aware of as I go on, is something that I legitimately said already beforehand with Ash's reading, which is to trust the process, which I didn't necessarily do. I did give a caveat that if this is on purpose, then don't worry about it, but I still gave the feedback anyway, which put in my mind the presumption that this was the same character, and it closed me off to other options. So I think if there's a lesson here, it's for you to observe me and learn from that. When you are reading, trust the process. Trust that the author has understood what they are doing, and has an end goal here. And once you've read the whole passage, then you can talk about, once you've realized what is happening, then you can talk about what is described there. Because you can literally see it happen in real time. Once I realize what's going on, once the penny drops, I immediately start to go back and look at places that I missed, and I get very confused and very caught up in myself because I wasn't sure how I missed it. And now, with the benefit of hindsight, I can see that it was because I was already giving feedback from the start about things that were very purposeful and very intentional. So yeah, because of that, I'm now unfortunately biased, so I can't tell whether I would have picked it up earlier and whether it is good or bad. But you can say you can take that from the other people who are here with me, who caught it before I did, who weren't reading it out loud, that it is actually a very effective narrative device here. And actually, what a cool parallel to deal with this just after we've read another version of this with Ash's reading. And now here's Silv doing exactly the same thing. Very nice.
So I just realized something as well, because I wasn't fully paying attention to the breaks.
Oh, yeah?
If you scroll down...
yes.
No, up a little bit.
Up to here?
Yeah, it mentions a voice like grinding gravel reading.
Yes.
And then...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was snarling, could it be a smile? Voice like gravel. And then scroll down. Yeah, that is a physical transformation, because she was a Worgen while she was reading, then she turned to a human form.
Ah, so it was a physical transformation here. Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right.
Which is why earlier it described claws when picking up the book.
Yeah. I think
she had literal claws.
I mean, this is very interesting to have. Yeah, I'm going to use this as a platform to talk about author knowledge versus reader knowledge, right? And I'm going to say this again. Just because I didn't catch it doesn't mean that no one else will. But I think because this is the main storytelling device of this passage of writing, it's only fair that we give it the most attention here. When you are writing something like this, not you, Silv, but just any writer here who wants to write something like this, make sure that you keep the distinction between your knowledge and the reader's knowledge. And you have to assume that the reader only has as much knowledge as you've given them from the start. Now, of course, if you're an attentive reader, you will pick stuff up a little bit earlier. And I am usually an attentive reader, but like I said, I'm reading aloud and I'm on stream, so it's all different. But having said that, there is something very important to consider, and that is that your reader, before starting your book, has zero knowledge of what's going on. Unless it's a WoW person, and then obviously they know the WoW lore in this context. But in a general context, if you're writing a book, your reader has exactly the amount of knowledge that you've given them, and no more than that. So you have to assume it takes quite a big challenge as a writer to put yourself in the shoes of a reader who does not have the knowledge that you have, because as a writer, you have all the knowledge. You have all of the plot lines in your head, and you have everything. You have a future in mind. You know where the scene is going, but you have to assume that the reader has no clue where the scene is going. So, yeah, something to keep in mind when you write specifically devices that have the potential to confuse. I think that having that process in your mind is possibly the most valuable thing for you.
The wolf howling in the distance there is also some foreshadowing to that as well.
Oh, that's nice as well. Yeah.
Because, you know, Worgen are werewolves, and I mean, because I know, like, the game and stuff, I picked up that this was Gilneas from the first mention of an earthquake and onslaught.
Oh, okay. So you knew. All right. So that would have been
like
WoW
a wolf
knowledge.
howling in the distance would be like, okay, is that a wolf or?
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to speak about the stuff that I thought was most impressive, and that is, this is a level of writing that is incredibly detailed. There's not just a storyline going on here. In all of the sentences is a narrative choice. It feels like, now that I know what's actually going on, it feels like every sentence was specifically chosen. And yet it still has a natural flow, but there were... I mean, there were some sentences that were like too short in a row that felt a bit staccato, but with the overarching story, it feels like, I think my favorite part about this is it feels like the story has deep layers to it, and if you go back and read it, it has rereadability value, which is really cool. And there's this is my favorite thing. There is there's a depth to it that is contained in individual sentences that provides a lot of really good context and foreshadowing for what is to come, so that you can actually read this back again and now see new things like the wolf howling and things like that. And I think that is a mark of really committed writing. Like, really, this doesn't feel like a casual endeavor. Not that writers are like casually writing. Some of them are, but what I mean is this feels like dedicated writing. It was very, very nice to read. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed your turn of phrase as well, and yeah, I think I think the details that were present here, yeah, as Baron said, there are a lot of details here, and things changed very fast. You had to kind of keep up with it, but in a good way. I really, really enjoyed the atmosphere that you gave here. That leads me to actually the atmosphere itself, which was very nicely portrayed. The cathedral, I could really feel the space that you created around it. I could feel the desolation, and the weather really painted a nice picture as well. I liked the way that you I really liked the way that you painted the surrounding things, the elements, the raven and the bony fingers, and like I said, the weather and the quality of the stuff inside the cathedral and everything. Everything felt as desolate as you wanted it to be. So I really, really enjoyed that. I can just imagine Silv losing her mind watching me tell her that she repeated a sentence twice, and then it's actually like fully on purpose, and it's supposed to make me go, huh? But then I'm supposed to trust the process and keep going instead of going, wait, Silv, you should not do this. And Jesus.
So would you like some context behind what happened to Gilneas?
Yeah, sure. I assume there was like
It's-
some magical based disaster.
It's part of the because the Worgen are a race you can play as.
Is it a cataclysm? Is it the Cataclysm DLC?
Yes, it was introduced then.
Okay,
This is where the earthquake comes into it.
Yeah, I was gonna
But,
say that's probably it,
It's
yeah.
the starting zone for the Worgen.
Interesting.
It starts out, the city being attacked by Worgen. Like you start off as just a normal human, helping defend the city
shit! And then you get turned
from
wow.
Worgen attacking.
That's cool.
Yeah, you go down into a basement. You get bit by one of them. You kill it, and then you continue helping through the whole thing.
That's really cool.
And it gives your character a debuff, like like a bite, and then as you progress through the starting zone, the debuff like changes to like, oh, it's getting worse, and it's itching now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then partway through that, an undead army attacks as well.
Oh shit! Very cool.
And then an earthquake happens.
Okay, and that
part
destroys
of the kingdom
city.
is submerged in the ocean because of it.
Damn.
But don't worry about that.
Okay, one tiny nitpick that I have here that I'll talk about is this. When she says Lil sis, Lil is a like this is probably me and the way that I read it, like in my voice, but the way that I was reading it, so this is not a nitpick for you necessarily, it's more just something to be careful of as a writer, I suppose, just in general. But every reader has an inner voice, and when readers, I have an outer voice because I'm reading it out loud, but when the readers read voices for characters, they put accents on them. And if there is no foreshadowing for that accent, if there's no clue, then when this comes out after the character has already spoken many times, this can feel a little bit dissonant, that it comes out of nowhere, this like colloquial term like lil. Like I've never said lil before, for example. So if I'm giving,
is supposed to go after the I.
Oh, really? I thought this. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought this was the way it was spelled. Oh, okay.
No, it's after.
Okay, well now you can tell Ash that she's nitpicking even more so.
I use it a lot in like my roleplay. Okay. So
right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense because the
character
apostrophe
says like little bit a lot, like
yeah.
Instead of a little bit, just a little bit.
There needs to be or little is more like that. Yeah. I would say make sure that there's like a clue that the character does speak a little bit like that as you go, so that it doesn't kind of come out of nowhere, because this is the first and only time that it happens. So, and it's right at the end of their like established dialogue. That's the only thing that I would talk about with that. Yeah, I also.
So the funny thing about that, actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
yes,
Silv was in the middle of writing this at one point when I had hopped into the voice chat and Arclight server.
Oh,
while
for real? Okay.
I was writing my own.
Oh, nice.
And I had complained about the fact that describing voices is very hard for me. And she had also said the same thing.
Okay, cool. Then thanks for I've received
Also,
a message while she's sleeping, and I understand. And it is hard. You need to be very yeah, go on first.
The funny thing is about Gilneas is I believe they are supposed to have a more Cockney accent as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So,
then in that case, that little sis will be a lot easier to say if that was something that I knew about beforehand. But if I knew that Gilnean people, this is also a me issue because I'm not familiar with the lore. If I was, I would know that they would have that accent, but that's a deep cut. If you're reading to someone who doesn't have that lore knowledge, you would need to foreshadow that a little bit more. One of the ways you can practice this, you need to really be in tune with how sounds sound coming out of people's mouths, and trying to commit that to paper is not easy. Some people have what I will say more neutral accents, which can be read more more as the words appear on the page. They just read them like that. So like me, for example, I have obviously a more British way of pronouncing things, but my accent also has a lot of melding from other different places. Like I use American R's sometimes because I came to Korea and I had to alter that to like, because you can't teach if you don't say R to Korean kids who have like a lot of American influences. So I had to alter my accent a little bit. It kind of happened naturally. It was very weird. And but then there's also that South African bit as well. So because of that, it's more of a, like when I read, mostly as the words appear, I read them as they sound. But if someone has a slightly stronger regional accent from somewhere else, like maybe a really strong Cockney accent, for example, you would have to really focus down on the way the word sounds coming out of their mouth. And then here's how you can do it as a writer. If you are if you're looking to practice writing accents, go and listen to a video with someone of that accent in it, and then start to type down or write down the sentence that they're saying, and then take just one sentence and break it down really slowly and listen each word at a time and write it phonetically. Write the pronunciation phonetically, and then just kind of get into it. You know, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm gonna go with... there we go. Okay. Right, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. I'm gonna open up a new doc. Oh, wait, that's home. Yeah, new document, and I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean by this. So if you are a... Jesus. Go pageless. No. Go away, rather. Go away. There we go. Okay, so. Is this where we want it? Yeah. Okay, cool. This is where hang on. Go up. Lovely. Right, so you had nothing to do with anything that happened here. Okay. That's the sentence. Let's say they have a Cockney accent, and you wanna practice it a little bit. You would say, you had nothing to do with anything that happened here, or something like that. You had nothing to do with anything that happened here. Cool. Done. Now, you're going to take that and change most of the words to normal words, and then the classic Cockney ones, which comes with experience, learning the Cockney accent, are going to be kept the same. So, for example, you would be you. That would just be regular. Add needs to be done, so you'd put an apostrophe there. And if you want it to be a really heavy accent, you would include more of these altered words. The more altered words included in a sentence, the heavier the accent is. That is what is implied.
For, I think, a lighter accent would be to type nothing as normal, but have an apostrophe instead of the G at the end.
Yes, yeah, nothing. Okay, and then to do.
And then to do, you just the T and then an apostrophe.
Yeah, T and apostrophe works as well. You had nothing to do with anything. You could even also go that as well. That happened here. Right. This, I would say this is a very heavy accent, so now we got to change it. So I would say you add to do with anything that happened here. I would say take the H's out. Keep with patterns, right? You had nothing to do with anything that happened here. I think happened here as two in a row is a little bit weird. So maybe like happened here. Oh, also I've spelled this incorrectly. There you go. Yeah, it takes a little while to get used to. Like I said, I'm not the perfect like example. This is not the perfect example, but it is a good way if you are a writer to get practice with this and get practice with how the accents work. You had nothing to do with anything with anything that happened here, and this gives you a much more a much clearer idea of how the person might speak. So, yeah, take it one sentence at a time. Listen to someone with that accent saying it, like go to a YouTube video with a Cockney accent, and then listen to the sentence and try and make it phonetic, and try and get pronunciation guides there. Okay, yeah, Silv, very nice, very, very nice. And unfortunately, there we go. There's the doc. Okay. Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed this. Very, very skilled, and I really enjoyed your depth of analysis as well, and your dedication to the storytelling device. That this was this were two different characters. This was two different characters. I think the one thing that will always confuse me is just the fact that it was she and she again, because I will just assume with my male brain, I guess, that we're talking about the same person.
You could mix it up by maybe for the second one, have it be they.
Yeah, but that I think that might just give it away though, because I don't want I want the surprise to still be there. But so I think just blame me in that case. I think the fact that there was enough difference, like, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. From here, let's see. So
the details of it being a different person were there. You just have to pick up on them.
Yeah, I would say here, I'm going to be very specific because this is a really important device to get right. So I would say here, she began to walk to the cathedral, which is the end, and then the colored glass attempted a dazzling display. The break breaks between characters. You need to make sure that there is a break between characters. But if you're trying to convince us, if there's a surprise that the two characters are the same, that's fine. You can still keep it there without revealing it all. But when I read the colored glass, you could have looked at it from, the outside as well, which is why it could have been from this person's perspective or from that person's perspective. And I, as someone who read it out loud and for stream purposes, wouldn't really be reliable in terms of whether you did it 100% effectively or not. I would rather give more general advice regarding how to do this particular device effectively, and that is making sure there is a clear enough break that acknowledges that the reader has zero knowledge when you move from character to character. Because remember, these 3 points of asterisks, I remember I told Ash that this was a good way to move between characters, and it is. If it's obvious that you're moving between characters. It can also be effective if you're trying to keep that surprise, but remember that these 3 asterisks are not only used to describe different characters. It's also described, the 3 asterisks are basically one big ... that is meant to skip parts of the story if they're not important. So like if you are describing, let's say, so this could be interpreted as she began to walk to the cathedral and then ... even in the bleak light, the colored glass. So now she's inside and you think it's the same person. Like this could be, that is a perfectly valid way of interpreting those 3 asterisks. They are also used to switch characters, but that's not their only purpose. Okay. All this to say, I actually think this is, I do think this is a very effective thing that you've done. But I'm just giving general advice for writers, you and others, and myself as well, on how we can do this effectively. And that's basically it. Yeah, like I said, if I'll go back, my favorite thing about this story was how in-depth it was and how committed it felt, and how many layers there were to it, how much rereadability value there was in it. So yeah, very, very good. Love the quality of this. I really like your my favorite thing, turn of phrase. I really liked your turns of phrase. There were moments there that really stood out to me as well. So yeah, very nice. Whew. Okay.
Also,
brain hurt.
Alpherg's, it'd be more think, not tink. You just,
Don't make me
wait.
tink you upside the head.
Wait, wait, what are you
in
doing?
YouTube, in the YouTube chat. It'd be do you think, not do you tink.
Oh,
Come on,
sorry,
come on,
my
come on.
There we go. Do you think that we got time for one more? Do you think with a
Do you think?
which
It'd
which
be an
accent
F,
would this be?
I don't know.
If this is if there's a
throwing in
Cockney
words.
accent, this sounds actually more Jamaican than anything else. Yeah, that would be more Jamaican if I read it. The story in the world is in my head greatest. Is greatest in my head?
Greatest story.
The greatest story in the world is in my head. Cool. Yeah. Great. Are you a writer, Baron? Do you like to write stuff? If you do, you should post stuff and we'll look at it together. Okay, do we have time for one more? I don't know how in-depth my analysis is going to be, but sure. Why I actually feel a little bit tired. I might draw a line here. We can do it next time. Why? Did you finish something?
I mean, I didn't finish it, of course, but
Oh, you've written
gotten to
more.
a good point.
That's really cool, dude. That's really cool. I want to read it when I have enough energy to give it more of my attention. So we can do it next time. Oh, but this was fun. I'm sorry, Silv. I'm sorry that I was a dum-dum. But you did that really well. I really do think so. And I'm gonna make sure to paste a message when I show this VOD to you that don't worry, it gets better. I promise. I realize the penny drops. I promise.
The brain unsmoothen slightly.
Yeah.
A wrinkle forms.
A wrinkle appears. A singular
Andre's brain
wrinkle.
has one singular wrinkle.
It's just one. It goes straight up the middle. It's like when I really concentrate, I tend to pop a vein here. That's the wrinkle of the brain. It kind of it raises to the
You mean
surface.
the wrinkle that we all have?
Yes. Yeah. I have to work to get that to show itself. Otherwise, it's just a bowling ball. I don't have any talent for writing, but I have a story, and it's the greatest. I like your confidence. I think you should try. Also, the word talent implies that you don't have to work for it, and writing is something you do have to work for it. It is a skill. So think of it as a skill.
Hard.
Think of it as a skill, and try it. You might like it.
That is, yeah, it's why I've heard a lot of artists and stuff get annoyed when people say they have a gift.
Hello, hi.
No one gave it to me.
I do not enjoy being told that I'm talented and that I have a gift.
I worked hard to have this. No one gave me this ability.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this.
I'm not a fan of being told that I'm talented. I would prefer to be
you're
told
so
that
gifted.
I'm skilled. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gifted is the same energy as thank God for your piano playing. You know, I'm like, no, thank me and my hours of practice since I was 6. That'd be better. Yeah, go on, Alfred.
I'll say this. Somehow Harry Potter got popular.
Yeah, if questionably written children's books can be the most popular children's series in the world, then
They have to be written amazingly if it's for children.
Well, that's true, but it is designed for
Children
all
aren't
ages
gonna
as
care.
well. No, I think there is a specific skill set for writing for children. It is a very specific thing. That's my single wrinkle talking, but I'm confident in it. Yeah.
No, I gotta agree.
What? That there's not a specific way to write for children. It takes a lot of skill. Oh, there is. Yeah, it takes a lot of skill to write for children. Absolutely. Also, John, what you were saying, I think you said interesting for my accent changing. Yeah, I did catch it when I was when I came here, and I now have to be a lot more purposeful about where I put my things. And if I'm too casual with it, I'll slip into using American R's like all the time, because just because that's how I adapted here. You know. I was in a talent show in middle school, and this kid that made fart noises with his leg pits won. Wait, that's so cool though. Holy shit. Wait, like in the knee? Like you could make fart noises with your knee? I would have voted for him. Yeah, absolutely. I would have given him the crown.
Yeah. I wish my school had anything close to that, but no, we had 13 different people singing.
Oh god. Talent show is not just singing talent, my dudes. It's got to be more. You've got to do other talents. Like how far can you bend your elbow back, you know?
On the topic of accents, I think my accent is quite a bit different than what it quote unquote should be.
What for Northern?
For where I live, because I spent a lot of time just talking to people over voice chats from like various countries and stuff. I just naturally adapt to talk like people I'm talking to.
I agree. I think for where you live in like the realm of the UK where you are, I think you should certainly sound more like a character that comes out of Game of Thrones.
Like for instance, I am like an hour north of Zareth and like an hour west of Ollie.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And like about
Ollie doesn't really have.
I think about the same kind of distance away from Akula as well.
Oh, so, it's been a while since I've heard Akula's voice.
You know.
I think Ollie has a very like flat kind of more, I would say more stereotypical UK accent, like a more country kind of UK accent. Not like a northern country, but like a yeah.
He does live in Lincolnshire, so yeah, that kind of checks out. It's a bit
not in a bad way.
Here.
Not in a bad way either. We're just analyzing, but I would think
not West Country because it's in the east, but you know, it's not like you know, fucking like stereotypical farmer. But...
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah.
So, speaking of this, just triggered this memory. But let me tell you how bad at accents I am. I once called Cozy Zareth for 5 minutes, and nobody said anything to me.
Okay, but Cozy's accent, like, that's egregious. Cozy's accent is very northern, like
he's
very
from
northern.
Preston. What are you on about? That's further away from Zareth than I am.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh damn! I always thought Cozy's sounded he's always sounded like the strongest. He's got one of the strongest northern accents in my ears. I feel I think it's stronger than Zareth's for sure.
Well, yeah, he is like more north than me, like but
yeah.
More west and more north, if you know.
Okay, yeah. I think when you
he's like north of Liverpool, northwest of Manchester.
Yeah. I think your accent is definitely like, I'll say, for lack of a better term, neutralized a little bit based on the people you talk to. Yeah. And it's the same as mine, for sure. I mean, when I started talking about, when I started talking online with friends, the first thing people asked if I was British, because I still had a very, like, Cape Town-based accent. Well, it was actually Praetorian, but it was basically a Cape Town-based South African accent, so there was no Americanisms in there at all. And now it's a little bit, and then there was Australian for a time as well, because that's a lot of that's a big confusion people make with South African people.
Yeah.
And then
God.
I can hear it. Yeah.
More New Zealand than South African, because more New Zealand than Australian, because it's more, the vowel sounds are more flat.
Well, New Zealand and Australian get mixed up all the time as well. So.
Yeah. There is actually a very interesting difference between the two, but yeah, once I traveled to Korea, obviously it got a lot of Americanisms, because there's more American influence here than anything else. And when Koreans speak English, they also use R's like Americans do, because it's easier to pronounce. Like if I tried to teach children who it could be done, but it's more difficult, I think, when they're exposed to American English and then they've got to hear me say war instead of war, war is just a weird sound that comes out of my mouth. But if they hear war, it sounds a lot clearer. They can hear the consonants a lot more clearly.
The warsher.
The warsher?
A warsher.
Yeah.
Got to wash your clothes.
Huh? Who says wash for wash?
Gotta wash it.
Boomers.
Boomers from Minnesota.
I'm not joking.
Wash your clothes.
No. Well, yeah, it is a more Midwestern thing, I think.
Yeah. I find accents to be fascinating. I really do.
MJ.
Yes.
Remember Akil's bits with accents?
Yes. Wait, during his streams?
No, like throughout his TikTok videos. Like, he would post like his stories were in a British accent, but then he'd change just.
Oh, so Akil
every
as
so
a
often
person.
change
Sorry,
his accent.
I thought you meant like he had bits with different accents. Yeah. No. With the first time I heard him change, so I knew if no one knows Akil here, he's a TikToker that like we became friends and then our communities kind of melded, and now he's sort of left TikTok and is occasionally posting, but is around. He's busy with a new job right now in the UK. But he's kind of moved all over. Like he's been in Australia and Canada and lots of places in America, and then now he's in the UK. But he has an Australian accent, but also Canadian and also American, and it comes out depending on what's going on, like what the context is and who he's talking to as well. It's really interesting. So when I talked to him on stream, I think when we spoke, it started American, and then there were times where it moved and became slightly Australian as well. It was very interesting. Really, really cool. I also think I have a story about this as well. I had a friend in high school who was Afrikaans, fluent Afrikaans, but because his father was a diplomat, he went all over and went to international schools when he was younger and learned English as an American, because that's how they teach it in the international schools that he was in. So he came back, and when he spoke English, it was with a proper American accent, like complete. And then he would switch into fluent Afrikaans, and I was like, huh? Because he was Afrikaans. And I was like, what? That was weird. That was the first time that I really experienced like accent differences depending on the language you speak. It was really cool. Really, really interesting. I knew a guy that said farts are just straight wind off of turds. Still cracks me up. Holy shit. Southern Alabama accent made it golden. Hold on. Farts are just straight wind off of turds. That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love that. Thank you, John, for that nugget of information.
The nugget.
Get it? Because we're talking about turds. That's great.
Turd nugget.
All right. I'm tired. I have to pee.
I'm all.
Hello, tired.
And I have some stream editing to do. So thank you all for joining me today. I'm gonna round it off there. I'll see you guys later. Thanks, Discord friends. Thanks for sending your writing, Ash and Alpherg. I'll read the rest next time.
Next time
Have a
reading corner.
Yeah, next time on Reading Corner. Have a wonderful day. And Ash, go to bed. And I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
For the rest of you, that was fun. I really, really, really enjoy our reading corners. It's really nice to analyze it. Thank you, Silv, for for submitting your work as well, posthumously. By that I mean not that you're dead, but that you're watching the VOD. And for John and Baron, thanks for being here and offering your conversation as well. It was really nice to see you guys. It's always nice to see you guys in here. For the rest of you, it is now 1:22 p.m. It's lunchtime. And I'd like to thank you all so very much for watching and being a part of it, whether you've been lurking, whether you've been actively participating, whether you're watching the VOD, whether you're binging. It's just really lovely that we can spend some time together and make each other a part of our day. So thank you once again. It's really nice to have you here. And I will see you in roughly 8 hours from now, where we will play Mass Effect again. We have more people to recruit, one more person to recruit, and then some more stuff to do on Ilium, so stick around for that. Thank you once again. I will see you in the next one. Make sure that you drink enough water, that you're kinder to yourself than you're currently being, and next stream, we do it all again. Take care!